Good morning.
Morning, mate.
How are
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
you? Yeah, good. What are you sipping on?
Coffee.
What's your coffee of choice?
Just a simple cappuccino. Yours?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I've been drinking these Boss
Oh
iced
yeah.
lattes.
Yeah.
They're not bad.
Yeah, there's something about drinking coffee from a can that just doesn't sit well with me, but
Oh,
yeah.
it's weird. Yeah, no, it's weird. But these ones actually taste pretty good. The Japanese are onto something there. Tastes good. Anyway, let's get into it. So, welcome back, everyone who's tuning in and viewing. Today, obviously, we got a big one. We got UFC 311 this weekend. It's a mega card. I've really enjoyed actually breaking this one down. Obviously, there's the odd fight that's pretty dreadful, but I mean that whole main card is pretty sick, and I'm really keen for
It's
it.
amazing.
How are you
Yeah,
feeling
man,
about it?
I'm really keen to dive into this card, especially the main card. Even in the prelims, there's some bangers in there.
Yeah, there's some really good fights. Do you want to do a quick recap of your bets for last week, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll get into the the analysis.
So last week for Vegas 101, let me get my notes up.
I'll go first, then while you wait. I ended up down minus 1.79 for the week, which I mean it sucks to lose on your first week back, but not a terrible result. Couple of things didn't go our way, and mainly, again, just a few little prop plays. The money lines I thought were actually pretty decent plays, and I would probably do it again. Got absolutely nutted on a Chris Curtis look as well. Got in at a live bet. I just missed him at about $4.30 plus 330, and then he instantly, as soon as I bet on him, he instantly dropped to he was $1.25. So whatever that is in American odds, pretty sharp. And then obviously those two timeouts came just after that, which kind of let Kopylov back into the fight. And then obviously we know what happened in round 3. So that was a pretty flat one. I was actually really happy with that live entry. I'm going to be doing that more often on plays where I think they have a chance to win, but probably lose round 1 and then heat up at the end. But yeah, that was my week anyway. What about you?
I'm plus 1.96 units. Started off very grim, like with got the Norilo Aliyev win, but then Gadzhigulov just absolutely shit the bed for us. Then the Nicole Cagliari sub, played that for a half a unit. I'd play that again, to be honest. Trey Ogden, it was looking good until very suddenly it wasn't.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with the bicep, I think.
Played Marco Tulio round 3, a decision. Just thought that Pateria would maybe drag it out. And then from there, won my last 4 bets. Got Felipe Bunez money line.
Yeah, nice player.
I got Christian Rodriguez. I was going to live bet Christian Rodriguez, but as I was seeing him walk out, I was like, he just had that look in his face, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna put a bet in now. So I put in 0.33 of a unit on Christian Rodriguez by decision, which his decision was paying plus 600, which was really good. Wish I put a bit more into that. And the parlay Curtis Kopylov over 2.5 with Cesar Almeida, got that at plus 101. And then Mackenzie Dern pulled it off for me, which I was very happy with.
Yeah, nice plays.
Very happy with it.
I had a play on Razak Al Hassan as well. At some pretty decent odds, and I honestly was pretty happy with the play. I know he got absolutely stiff, but I think there's another world in where we obviously dropped him, but he just got so unintelligent with that. How he was swinging at the end. I think there's a world in which he put some intelligent pressure on. He would have won that round. Who knows? Maybe he steals another round with some wrestling if he doesn't get absolutely shit knocked out of him. So I honestly probably would play that again. I didn't mind it. But anyway, let's get into this week. Let me just quickly share my screen. Sorry, one sec. All right.
Yep,
You got
can
that?
see it.
All right, let's zoom in a touch. All right, so the first fight kicking us off this weekend, we've got Tagir Ulanbekov at 15-2, taking on Clayton Carpenter, who's 8-0. Odds we have Tagir is a pretty big favourite. Last time I looked, he is sitting at about minus 310 to minus 330 range, and then we've got Clayton Carpenter anywhere from plus 260 to 270 maybe. I spent a lot of time breaking this one down, more than I thought I would when I first looked at it. It's a pretty good fight, man. Like Tagir, a lot of people think Tagir is like, the runt of that Nurmagomedov sort of gym clan. I think he's like a good size for the flyweight division. He's not huge, I wouldn't say, but he's really long. He's got a good frame. He's got very efficient and dangerous wrestling and just overall grappling game. He averages 3.7 takedowns per 15 minutes. I think he's very good at not only taking the back against the cage, like he'll jump and look for the body triangle, but he's also just really good at holding the back and threatening the rear naked choke. I also think his guillotine is very, very impressive. To me, finishing Cody Durden by sub is very, very impressive. He's not unsubmittable, of course. Like we've seen him get submitted before, but he's very gritty and been in a lot of deep submissions, and he's been able to fight through them. But Tagir, like he had him absolutely snookered several times, which Durden was able to somehow get out of, but he eventually got him with that rear naked choke. I think his striking is overall pretty average. He fights out of southpaw. He doesn't have like a heap of power or technicality, but I do like his teep, his front kick. I think his striking defense is really, really poor. He absorbs slightly more shots than he gives out. It's not the worst, given he's a grappler mainly, but it's just not ideal as you try and climb the ranks. I don't think he reads shots very well. He has a super low defensive guard. He doesn't roll with shots. He's got no head movement. It's a pretty big red flag for me. I'm not sure if Carpenter is the guy to sort of capitalize on that, but I think someone will at some point. He consistently struggles to check calf kicks. He's got no checking ability. The Dagestani wrestling style really flourishes. One, against the cage, if you can get like a body lock and then work those trip style takedowns. And two, if you let them get to half guard and dominate wrist control, it's just two big things you need to be aware of and very, very reactive to. In the Tim Elliott fight, he seemed flustered by, the obvious awkwardness that comes with Tim Elliott, but also just the pressure. And it led to him making some really, really ordinary mistakes in terms of his defensive wrestling and him losing quite a lot of scrambles. He also just he's pretty infrequent in when he fights. He hasn't fought in over a year. It could be a negative or it could be a positive, but I think it's just something to note. Clayton Carpenter, I really like this guy. He's definitely the greener of the two fighters. He's an orthodox striker. I think he's got good speed on the feet. Visually, to me, he doesn't look amazing in terms of his striking, but he actually has a Golden Gloves boxing background, which is just, I don't know, you just wouldn't pick it when you look at him. He moves into range pretty, I'd say, unintelligently at times, like kind of always on center line, which I don't love. His head movement is interesting. He's either sort of completely central or he uses like inside-outside head slips to explode into the pocket. It's quite strange, his style, I'd say, overall. I do think he's slightly too hittable for my liking, just purely down to that head movement and footwork style. But you cannot deny that he's really gritty and he's tough. I like his outside leg kick. He's got good speed and timing on it. He will use the majority of looping shots, mostly hooks, but I could see him landing on Tagir here. But long term, it's kind of not the process that you want. He has a really sneaky head kick as well. He's able to throw it from these unusual like angles and with this unusual timing, mainly after he enters range with like an initial boxing combination, and then he'll throw it after that. He's got two finishes on the regional scenes, and so it's obviously something that's very effective for him. I like his wrestling. He's got beautiful blast double legs. Admittedly, he hasn't, done it against a top-level guy as of yet, but it's still good signs. I think he's got impressive grappling ability. He's got great top pressure and ability to hold top position, but also in terms of pure submission grappling, he's got a range of submissions to choose from. I just think he's dangerous on the mat. Overall, the fight, I think, clearly Carpenter is far more green and youthful in terms of overall skill and competition, but you can't deny he has a few tools that have proven successful versus Ulanbekov before. He's got power in his striking. He's got dangerous submission grappling, and he's super durable and can take his shot. I think his calf kick is a proven weapon, and I also believe his head kick could potentially catch Tagir at any point. I also think Tagir has the far more proven and better wrestling against the cage and will probably have success here. Carpenter's never been tested in terms of pure wrestling, but seems content to fight off his back at times, and he's got a less proven ability to threaten, subs and sweep like an Ashimento was able to. I think this is a really good fight. I think Tagir is definitely a favorite. I think he should be favorite, but I think Carpenter could definitely have some success. I capped at 60-40, so I'm thinking about entering on Carpenter.
Yeah, beautiful breakdown, man.
I like the fight.
Yeah, 60-40. Yeah, I actually capped it pretty similar, like around like 75-25. Well, like the odds like suggest that Tagir is going to absolutely run through this guy, but I'm watching tape and I really like what I see from Carpenter. Like he's very aggressive on the feet, and then well-timed takedowns, very nice explosive power. He's also well versed in working from his back. Like he was taken down by Banderos in round 1, and then snuck in a triangle choke, like transitioned to an armbar and used the threats of those subs to just reverse and get on top. Where he did work his way to a rear naked choke. This will be his biggest leap in competition, and could prove to be very difficult because Tagir, he is a 5-fight veteran in the UFC now. He's 4-1 with that loss being against Tim Elliott, who he did have his way with Tagir, like with just his awkward striking style that seemed to just confuse him, and it exploited Tagir's weaker defensive grappling for sure. But Elliott did also get away with a few fouls, like illegal knees, head clashes, club grabs. But you got to give it to Tagir. He did finish pretty strong, like winning that third. Like if you remember, like Khabib in the corner just absolutely like lungs out.
Going mental.
But yeah, since that loss, like Tagir has won his next 2 fights, both by sub, with a standing guillotine over Nate Maness, who's now a bare knuckle boxer, and a rear naked choke on Cody Durden. Like both pretty good wins. Like Tagir, he's the skilled grappler, as expected from a Dagestani, and has great work on the feet. But the jury is still out on his like overall defense, like on the feet. Like even in a win against Cody Durden, he was very hittable in close in the pocket, like getting caught with short hooks, like a bit too easily in between moments of his striking success. And since the Tim Elliott fight, we haven't had to see Tagir defend a takedown. Like Maness and Durden were more worried about keeping the fight standing. But even then, if he does get taken down, he has like good hips and an effective butterfly guard where he can get a reverse. So experience and quality of competition heavily favors Tagir. He's also a bit more well-rounded with proven striking offense and very strong ground game, but he is susceptible to being taken down, as Tim Elliott showed. But Carpenter, he does show a lot of promise. I feel he's just a bit too green. Like while Tagir's defense striking, standing up is pretty suspect, I think Carpenter is not necessarily the guy to exploit it. Like his striking is aggressive, and I'm sure he can land if he closes the distance on an out of position Tagir. I just think Tagir will have the ability to win the majority of the striking exchanges. I believe both can take each other down as well and rack up some control time, but I would still lean Tagir getting the better off in the grappling overall, as he can get reversals using his butterfly guard and also work back to his feet against the fence. Tagir's work against the fence is like pretty good. I also think Tagir will do a better job holding Carpenter down and not allow Carpenter to use his BJJ to reverse. I am going to take Tagir, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than the odds suggest. I don't think I'm going to have a play on it, but I think he's going to give the prospect his first loss, and it'll be a good learning lesson for him. But all the value definitely on the prospect, as like I do cap the fight closer than the odds suggest.
And you think you think Tagir probably likely to win by decision, or I'm kind of I don't know why. As soon as I started taping Carpenter a little bit more, the way he throws that head kick on his like after his entry with his boxing combos, I can see a world in which, Tagir is moving backwards to, avoid that first combo. Carpenter throws that head kick and just catches him because his defense is poor at the best of times, let alone as he's kind of exiting range. So I'm interested in the dog here. I haven't played him yet, but if it gets even wider, I feel like I have to play.
Yeah, well, all the parlay boys are going to be jumping on to gear, like no doubt.
100%, and especially Tagir's he's a bit of a weight merchant. He'll miss weight consistently and look terrible on the scale. So that might play into it even more. So yeah, maybe I'll wait till see the scales and we'll go from there. It's a sick fight though to open the card. It's really good. All right, let's move up the card. And as always, if anyone's got any comments or who they think's going to win the fight or any hot takes, feel free to leave in the chat. We'll read them out. Moving up the card, we've got Ricky Tercios, who's 13-4, taking on Bernardo Sopai. I think that's how you pronounce it, at 11-3. Prices, we've got Bernardo Sopai at a pretty hefty favorite price tag. He's at that 335 to 360 range. And then you've got Ricky Tercios at plus 280, 290, somewhere around there.
So this is a rebooking of a cancelled fight from UFC Vegas 100 just a few months ago. We actually both did break it down in our very first podcast, but I'll just rehash some of the points we made. Tercios came out of season 29 of The Ultimate Fighter, where he won his 2 fights in the show and then defeated Brady Heastan in the finale to earn a contract. In the show, he did show promise, mostly in his ability in the grappling, where he scrambled so well, constantly working, and had he showed really good cardio. But his fights in the UFC really put a halt to any potential. Like, he's a fighter who does a lot, but at the same time doesn't really do anything. You can just see it from his striking accuracy of 37%, and like he probably thinks he's a really slick volume striker, but he has a 37% striking accuracy, as you can see with Natividad in the Natividad fight, where he landed 68 out of 115 strikes, and against Ayman Zahabi, where he landed 27 out of 235 strikes. Yeah, that's wild. 27 out of 235. He tends to stay out of range and just shadow box in front of his opponent, landing at air. Like, the only strikes I could give him props on is like a really fast body kick and head kick. But yeah, his usual path to victory is on the ground, as he is tricky there. But I feel like Sopai has him covered. This will be Sopai's second showing in the UFC, following a brutal KO loss in his debut to Vinicius Oliveira, which was a short notice bout. Like, he had his way for the first half of the fight, pressuring and outstriking Oliveira on the feet, showing good variety and speed in his strikes, and taking him down multiple times, like showing effective top control, even having Oliveira flattened out at one point. But then the fatigue set in halfway through round 2 and Oliveira took over. I came out of that fight very impressed with the skills he showed when he was fresh, and you also got to admire the valiant effort he put in when he was absolutely exhausted. He did, however, absorb some heavy accumulative damage that had him pretty much out on his feet in the third, and despite looking like he'll make it to the end, he got finished with like one of the most brutal flying knees you'll ever see. It's honestly the type of loss you watch play out and have to assume it's career ordering. I would be worried with a return. Like, it's been 10 months since that loss. I'd be worried if he was up against someone as dangerous or like had that sort of power, but that isn't really Ricky Tercios. Like, Sopai is young, but it will show it will have its consequences on him, like in some form. Like, maybe he might be a little hesitant, but I don't think Tercios is the level of danger that will threaten him. I really like how Sopai swings hard and fast on the feet, but I'm impressed with his takedown entries and top control. You just got to hope the result of the last fight doesn't have its effect on his game planning and like the way he executes his strikes. So I'm going to take Bernardo Sopai by decision here. He's better on the feet. He won't get hurt by Tercios's pitter-patter strikes, even if they land. or reach him. Like Tercios feints so much, but it just doesn't set up anything. He just shadow boxes in front of you. Like Sopai actually set up strikes through forward pressure, changing levels, and swings hard combos with actual intent. Like there will be grappling exchanges as they crash into range, and I believe mostly initiated through Sopai shooting. Tercios only has the 25% takedown accuracy, and Sopai should be able to defend his attempts if he does. And Tercio will probably allow himself to be taken down just so he can scramble out. Both are good scramblers, however, and active on the ground. But Sopai like has heavier top control, and he's much threats.
Ooh. Yeah. I think your internet might have cut out. All right, I might keep going because I think, Ryan just dropped out as I thought he might have. Hang on, he's back here.
Yo, did I drop out?
Yeah, you dropped out.
Oh, shit. That sucks.
It's all good. That's all good. Keep going.
Yeah, well, what was I saying last time?
I'd only cut out like 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think Sopai has heavier top control. It's much stronger. I can see him avoiding like the sub threats from Tercios from the bottom. And even if Tercios can reverse him, Sopai can work his way to his feet, probably against the cage or get a reversal back. I think it'll be a clear unanimous decision win for Bernardo Sopai here.
Yeah, very nice. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think pretty sure we've broken it down before and then it got cancelled. And I don't really have anything else to say. Tercio is just one of the weirdest fighters you're going to see. I think his striking level overall is shit. It's super unconventional. He uses just bizarre angles, heaps of wasted movement, and things that he thinks are feints, but they're not. They don't set up anything, so they're not a feint. No power in his hands, good volume. I think he maybe could win the eye test because he just throws so much bullshit out. But also depends on kind of what's coming back at him. I got massive questions on his takedown defense. I think he can definitely be out-muscled and out-wrestled at times, reflected in his stats at the 45% takedown defense. You can't deny he does try to work off bottom, but can actually work himself into worse positions against good grapplers. Tercios had also, what would have been a fight-ending rear naked choke for anybody besides Rosas with his fucked up, chin and jaw in their last fight. So I don't think that's the worst look. But, I'm not super high on Tercios. He hasn't looked good in the UFC yet, really once. On Sopai, I think he's a good fighter overall. He's got good power. He's got effective wrestling. Fights out of orthodox. I think he's got a pretty technical Muay Thai style on the feet. I think he can be a little bit low volume at times, but when he does hurt you, he does have really serious finishing instinct. Like you said, took the fight with Lockdog on short notice. Nothing really more to add on what you said, just gassed bad and got punished for it. I think round 3 was a pretty bad look for him. He lost almost every basic technical trick in terms of defense you're ever taught in MMA, but kind of also hard to deny the, size and physicality advantage that Lockdog had in that fight and what he has in most of his fights in that division. Have to worry about his durability on return after that KO, but, isn't a fighter that's normally super hittable or standing in front of you unless he's death gassed. And he's fighting Tercios, who's on the lower end of the power scale. So overall, I think Bernardo should be favoured. Obviously, concern over the KO return, but Tercios not a really effective or powerful striker. I think Bernardo's got a striking edge, should have a pure wrestling edge, so he should have lots of success here. I could see him finishing Ricky on the mat with ground and pound. Ricky is slippery, so probably will force some weird scrambles and neutralise a little. Hard to get an overall read, but Sopai deserve favourite in my opinion. I wouldn't play him at this price, just too many concerns on the return. But I think he should definitely be favoured.
Yeah, nice.
All right, on to the next one, up the card. We've got Rinya Nakamura, 9-0, taking on Murin Gafarov, not to be confused with every other fucking Tajik fighter who I think there's always one that I confuse him with. I think it's Naimov.
Yeah, Naimov. That's who I thought he was fighting initially.
Yeah, I always get him confused.
I just, Gafarov, he's the one with that patch of hair on his back.
Yes, he's got the rat on his back.
Yeah.
Okay, so prices, we've got Rinya, who opened at about minus 450, went up to minus 350 for quite a while actually, and now he's into minus 510. Come back on Muin Gafarov. He is plus 385 currently, open plus 350. Yeah, I'm going to lead this one off. So I'll start with Rinya. He's obviously just a super high level freestyle wrestler from Japan. He has like legit wrestling credentials, and you can see that in the way he fights. He looks the part. My main issue with him is that he's been getting some, rather soft matchups with huge price tags, and he hasn't been finishing the fights. Just not what you love to see when he's, sitting at these minus 600 and upwards price tags. You really want a guy to go out there and finish with some emphasis. He's literally like been bred to be a star with his background. Like he's been around high level MMA his whole life. He literally like, like an Imanari role.
Yep.
That's named after a guy called Imanari. He literally grew up next to that guy. So he's been around like, guys who have helped pioneer things in the sport his whole life. He fights out of southpaw on the feet with just like this insane forward pressure. He likes to use, this in and out footwork to explode into range and mix his takedown attempts with explosive looping style overhands and boxing shots like that. He has pretty good kicks on the outside too, mainly his rear leg kick to, both the body and leg. I think he uses his feints really well, paired with his feints paired with his explosive footwork and just like his overall speed. It makes his like takedown attempts just incredibly effective and just hard to stop his initial entry. And again, this is shown by his takedown accuracy, which is 90%, which is really impressive. If there's a knock on this guy, I think maybe his overall sub level. Like he passes guard really well. He holds top position expertly. He's got really good sub defense, and he, clearly understands the positions extremely well. But his danger level on the ground kind of reflects in his record. He's only got one win by sub, and I believe it was like a key lock, which is kind of just like a white belt strength sort of move. I like Rinya. I think he's super high level with his wrestling. He's like absurdly athletic, and the UFC have given him a slow push thus far. They like him also. Much less effective when he's on the back foot. It changes his range. Defensively, he's far worse. I think that's something to note moving forward. Onto Muin Gafarov. Again, like I said before, this is the guy that fights with the rat on the back, and I always confuse him with Muhammad Naimov. Unless this guy has, just Tajik farmer strength, I think he's going to be at a huge physicality disadvantage in this fight, and I think he's going to be at a huge speed disadvantage. He fights out of orthodox. I think his striking is fine when he's the one pressuring. He hits the target well, and I think his overhand, could probably have success in this fight. I've seen Rinya not see the backhand coming quite well a lot of times. He does have a good calf kick. I just think Rinya's footwork and range might help sort of make that not very effective, be hard to hit in terms of that calf kick. I think his takedown defense is pretty poor, to be honest. He's not athletic. He's not strong. And he's going to be at like a severe technique disadvantage. He often also gives his back up when re-wrestled against the cage. I really do expect that to be exploited here. I'm kind of just not sure what an ideal Gafarov fight looks like. He likes to try and mix wrestling in with his striking and whatnot, but I just think if he does that here, he's going to lose position to position scrambles bad. Overall, I think Gafarov kind of just sucks. He's going to be at a massive speed and wrestling disadvantage here. I think his only chance he has is to KO Rinya with a big overhand or like a spinning wheel kick, which he throws pretty regularly. I just think that's rather unlikely. I think Rinya is going to dominate him here with his wrestling. And I kind of like violence. I know Rinya hasn't got a finish yet in the UFC, but we're getting under 2.5 at plus 185. That obviously covers both sides and a potential Muin KO blow. So I kind of like that look, to be honest. I think Rinya might be able to get his first submission win. And I think Gafarov, if he wins, he's going to have to knock him out. So that's kind of my look, and I don't mind it.
Yeah, I like that play. Gafarov, he had Kyung Ho Kang on top of him in his last fight, like in like a very good position. So yeah, when I was watching Muin Gafarov, I think he's really nothing special. Like, yes, he has a ton of finishes, but most of them were coming like early in his career against pretty low level regional competition. Like his striking is okay. Like if he lands, he probably has the ability to put opponents out, and he has okay grappling, offensive grappling, where he does have like solid top control and can attack subs. But he certainly isn't amazing in both. His biggest weakness is his takedown defense and defensive grappling. Yeah, like I said, if a guy like Kyung Ho can take him down and get on top of him, a guy like Rinya Nakamura can definitely exploit his takedown defense. Rinya Nakamura, undefeated Japanese fighter, was a wrestling champion before he turned pro for only 4 years ago. But yeah, he does have a high level wrestling pedigree, but he has pretty incredible striking considering that's his second form, the second thing he learned. Yeah, he fights long, measured. He looks for openings to land that straight left, but ultimately it's his wrestling, which is the best and most dominant part of his game. He has well-timed takedown entries, very heavy downward pressure once he can get on top of his opponent. The level of competition he has faced, however, in the UFC isn't necessarily high, but this is the first fighter he's fighting who probably has the power to KO him if he lands up. So I think this is a suitable step up in competition. Yeah, like you said, Nakamura's around that really high price tag, and though I think there may be a possibility of Gafarov like making this sort of close at times, I just think Nakamura has him covered everywhere. Like Nakamura's willingness to exchange on the feet will allow like Gafarov to like have a bit of confidence standing there. But I think Nakamura can land something big on the feet, maybe even drop him and then get on top of him, dominate him on the ground. And were you predicting a submission for Nakamura?
I'm not too sure. I think he could probably knock him out. I think he could submit him. I think he could win. I think he could win all three ways, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can see like a knockout, like after like dropping him and then
Just some follow-up shots.
Yeah, follow-up shots, covering up. Yeah, but if he doesn't get that, then I'm just confident that Nakamura can win this 30-27 on the scorecards.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me is like you've obviously taped him as well. He gets really wild in the pocket sometimes on the feet. Like the way he swings and like just throws combinations in the pocket, super wild. I would hate to see Gafarov just clip him in the pocket, but I think that's a pretty minimal chance. His speed advantage is gonna be huge.
Yeah.
And you can't deny, like, I know he hasn't had a finish yet, but I remember in the Fernie fight, Fernie's pretty hard to finish. He's not that good, but he's fucking tough, man. He's hard to get out of there. And he looked for like quite a few submissions and had a couple of deep ones that might have got some other people. Probably would have got if it was Marine, it probably would have got him. And then Carlos Vera, just kind of a weird, dude, just like a Mexican Ryan Hall, just rolling for fucking legs and shit. So I think you can give him a pass on those performances. Maybe it's not ideal, but I did see glimpses of things that I would want to see in him. So yeah, I think he's definitely the side. Hard to get to him to a money line price, obviously, but yeah, I really like Violence.
Yep, Violence. I like that play as well.
All right, let's move up the card. I think this might be the only women's fight on the card, potentially.
Yeah, only one.
I think Khabib's made the call. Just one. All right, so we've got Carol Hosa 18-6 taking on Eileen Perez at 11-2. Price wise, and I'm very interested to see your take on this one. We've got Carol Hosa, who opened -170, now sitting at -255. There's been a bit of price movement up and down in the last couple of days. And then we've got Eileen Perez, who opened +145, now sitting at +215, but got as high as +245 yesterday. So, yeah, there's been quite a bit of movement on both sides. Yeah, interested to hear your take on this one.
Yeah, well, I only looked at this fight just very shortly. I just saw the price tag on Carol Rosa, and yeah, Rosa's good. Like, she showed in that Irene Aldana fight that she can bang, but I don't think she covers that price tag. And Aileen Perez, she may suck on the feet, but Well, I think all she needs is just a takedown. Like if she can get Rosa down, I look at this fight like very similar to that women's fight last week, except just a little bit more high level. That Carichiate and Nicole Calieri fight. Um, yeah, Perez don't really think that she can contest on the feet. Like if they're standing there, Carol Rosa has really good leg kicks, and she's just a little bit more proven. Like she has 24 fights in her career, and Perez has had 13, and yeah, Perez is yet to face the same competition that Rosa's fought. I think Rosa will have just a massive, significant advantage on the feet for as long as it's standing. I think she can defend the takedowns for a while, but like I said, if Perez just gets her down the ones, I think she can pull off like an armbar or a rear naked choke. So yeah, that's my take on it. I only taped this fight for like their last two fights and just jotted down a few notes, but yeah, I think Rosa will probably get the win here if Perez doesn't get her down. But yeah, I think the value's on Aileen Perez.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll start with Carol Hosa. Her, like you said as well, quality competition, it's like massively in her favor here. She really is just like a pure striker. That's pretty much her game. I don't think she's super technical, but she's super gritty and she's tough. She has a really good leg kick, which I reckon it's her number one weapon, and she can compromise calves, as seen in like both the Aldana and the Kianzad fights. She really dominated with that strike. She throws a big volume on the feet, nearly 6.5 significant strikes per minute. She also absorbs quite a lot with 4.91 significant strikes per minute. So kind of feels like she's happy to, take one to give one or two. Just has pretty decent striking fundamentals on the feet. Like her jab's good, her leg kicks, she attacks their body well. She's very good at landing damage on her opponents. She's got nice elbow also. Going back and watching a few of her fights, she really just has bangers, really. Like the amount of damage that she can put on people is pretty impressive for a woman. The type of fight she thrives in, it's a dog fight. It's a kickboxing war where you stand at range, pick at each other, damage each other shot for shot, and she outlasts you and she outvolumes you. She had huge issues with Dumont in the clinch. She was able to win minutes there pretty easily. And Sarah McMahon back in the day, she was able to double leg her off her kick timing just pretty easily. And I know, look, Perez isn't an Olympic wrestler like McMahon was, but you can't deny that she will just shoot and shoot and shoot. Not sure if Perez is, she's not near as good as either of those girls just yet, but you have to say she has had huge wrestling success so far. I think Rosa's overall, pure grappling, it's fine. She's not terrible, but definitely like her weaker part of her game, in my opinion. On to Eileen Perez. Obviously, this is a step up in competition. I think her striking is just pretty average. Nothing to really note about it. She's a decent wrestler. She doesn't have perfect technique, but she's relatively physical for WMMA. She's got good tenacity. She shoots big volume at 5.36 takedowns per 15 minutes. Admittedly, this is against poor competition who struggle in that area. Jocelyn Edwards, etc. Everyone she's fought kind of hasn't had a grappling background and has struggled with wrestling. I've seen her make quite a few errors in terms of pure grappling. Like she got swept and reversed by Edwards, which I think is a fucking dreadful look. I don't think she's going to give Rose. The main reason I'm interested in Perez is because I don't think she's going to give Rose the fight that she wants. I think she's just going to shoot often, look to cage clinch, work from there, make it a dirty, grueling type of fight. I haven't got to her yet, but I'm really interested in her at plus money. I think she's going to have a big chance to win minutes with the wrestling. And at the price tag of plus 215 upwards, I think it's a really good look.
Yeah.
I think she's going to be obviously a damage disadvantage just because Hosa seriously puts out some nasty stuff. But if she can get her wrestling going, I think she's had big success in this fight. And I think the line feels pretty wide.
Completely agree.
All right. It's don't really want to get invested too much in WMMA, but it feels like a nice time to get Perez. And, how long can Rosa keep having these wars? Who knows?
Yeah, and like you have massive underdogs in like women's MMA. Like, well, more so you have massive favorites that like are they really like do they really cover that price tag?
Mm. I think if it's a striking fight, I think Rosa probably covers that price tag pretty well. But I just don't think Perez is going to give her that fight.
Yeah,
He's just going to shoot. And look, she might get reversed, but even if it's on the mat, it's in her where she wants to be, I guess. Yeah, we'll see if we get to a play there.
yeah.
All right. This is a new fight that just got added. I think it was kind of like yesterday or pretty recently. I haven't taped it, so I'm not going to do anything on it. Have you taped this one yet?
No, I had Zachary Reese and Cedric Dumas like all.
Yeah, and I was actually looking forward to that fight. To be honest, it was actually pretty. I think it was a pretty competitive fight. It would have been all right. But yeah, I haven't taped this one, so I'm not going to give any opinions on this.
Yeah. Well, did you write much on Zachary Reese?
Yeah, I have everything on Zachary Reese still.
I just don't know how his opponent fares. His opponent seems to have a decent record, 18 wins.
Yeah, I haven't even got a price. Yeah, so it's actually well, okay. So Azamat, I'm going to say Bekaev minus 185 and Zach Reese plus 160.
Whoa.
So Zach
really
Reese is the underdog. He's gone from minus what was he like 300-ish range,
Yeah.
and now he's a a pretty decent sized underdog.
It was a pretty heavy favorite against Dumas, which I think was like pretty accurate. I think Dumas is a pretty nothing kind of fight. He was all right. Like he beats a certain level, like, but he lost to Josh Fremd, man. Like he losing to Josh Fremd, and when the fights he did win against Abu Azaitar, Brundage, and Tululan, like he did win clearly, but like he didn't separate himself. So I just saw that Zachary Reese, even if the fight went the distance, where Zachary Reese has gone the distance just once, all it took was just a few good moments from him, and he's a come forward and kill kind of guy.
Yeah, I was interested in Dumas in that fight a little bit, purely because just the price on Reese, like he's fought no one good yet, and he kind of looks like he's always going to fade pretty badly late. And Dumas was just pretty athletic, like big and long. I think he would have competed. He doesn't really get like hit clean that much, and he's been introducing the wrestling in his game a fair bit more, and he's like clearly getting better fight to fight. I don't think you can deny that about Dumas.
Yeah.
So I think like I was interested in Reese by sub because I think Dumas would have wrestled him and probably would have opened up a few entries. Yeah, I don't love Reese. Like I think his level of competition is shithouse overall, but he is big and he's fucking physical for the division.
He's a camp.
Yeah, I think so. I think he feels like a round one or bust kind of operator.
Yeah, but he did go the distances last fight.
Yeah, pretty hard to finish Medina though. Like it feels like you have to hit that guy with a fucking truck.
Stupidly durable, like that guy.
Yeah, I think if he hit a truck, I think the truck would come off.
Yeah,
Second best. But yeah, I'm going to do some tape tonight on this Bekaev, who's come out of LFA, so maybe he's got a bit of potential. But yeah,
I'll probably like do something and probably post something on Twitter, like if I have to do a small breakdown on it.
Yeah, it's a good call. All right, we'll keep moving up the card anyway.
Is that the only fight change in this one?
No, there was one more. I think it'll come up. Yeah, this one, Bogdan Kuskov.
Oh,
Johnny Walker fight. Yeah.
Oh damn, I didn't even look at that.
Yeah, that was just a last couple of days. But anyway, next fight up the card, we've got Grant Dawson, who is 22-2-1, versus Diego Ferreira, who is 19-5. Prices, it's a Grant Dawson fight, so he's going to be a huge favorite. Minus 250, which is probably a bit of a discount from what we've seen him recently. Like he's normally a little bit higher than that, I'd say. He opened it by the looks of it minus 310 or something, got all the way to minus 370, and now he's back to minus 250. And then the comeback on CDF, we have him at plus 210 currently, opened plus 275, got as high as plus 305 a couple of days ago, and now, plus 210. So I saw you put something on Twitter, but yeah, you lead us off with this one because I think I have a very similar take to you.
Yeah, so this is a matchup between two accomplished grapplers, Dawson, high-level wrestler, and Ferreira, BJJ black belt. So I'll start with Dawson. He trains out of American Top Team. He's coming out of a round 2 ground and pound finish over Rafa Garcia. Very good win. He finally got a finish, and he did a pretty good post-fight interview as well in that. He doesn't have the worst stand-up offense. Like, he throws a lot of kicks and step-in knees and keeps it at long range, pumping out jabs and check hooks, but it's just a matter of competing on the feet until he eventually shoots. Like, he has great timing out in the open with double and single legs and against the fence. Like, out of the 12 opponents he's fought in the UFC, he's taken down 11 of them, with that one loss in the UFC being against Bobby Green, which was a hilarious KO. That was a jab. And he was a massive favorite. That was a main event spot. Like, that's, you gotta that's
That was his prove it fight, and he didn't prove it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, once he's on top and working in the opponent's guard, he has that heavy downward pressure, active ground and pound, and is very much a position over submission kind of grappler. Like, if he gets the back control, he's great at sinking that rear naked choke. Like, of his 13 sub wins, 9 were by a rear naked choke. But yeah, like we just touched up on, his defense on the feet is not great. His striking defense accuracy is at 45%, which should be concerning considering he has been rocked multiple times, both in the UFC and regionals. Like, both of his losses are by KO, but even against lower level competition in the regionals, he was getting rocked. So Carlos Diego Ferreira, he's coming into this fight on a 2-fight win streak, both by KO, and will be 40 years old on fight night. Like, it'll be his birthday that night.
That's a sign.
That is a sign. Diego, he is 10-5 in the UFC, debuting in a promotion in 2014. He's known for his high-level grappling, but he definitely has an underrated stand-up game. Like, he had a really rough 2021 where he lost all 3 fights in that year to Beneil Dariush, split decision, Gregor Gillespie, and Mateusz Gamrot. But those fights, he did show excellent defensive grappling, but he was just outworked. But he returned with a bang in 2023, beating Michael Johnson with that massive KO. And Mateusz Rebecki in his last fight through ground and pound in round 3. I think in the last minute or something. But yeah, in that fight, Rebecki, he was a plus 310 underdog, where he certainly looked the part like pretty early. Like, Rebecki, how do you even pronounce the name?
I think it's Rombeski.
Rombeski, yeah. Rombeski applied heavy forward pressure, throwing everything with power, hurting Diego a few times and knocking him down in round 1. But Diego held in there, like, started having more success as the fight wore on in the second, with Rombeski losing steam and Diego growing more confidence. Like, especially when Rombeski's grappling found less success, he took him down multiple times, only for Diego to just get back up and on the feet. Like, Diego was just landing more and more. Eventually, in the last minute of the fight, all the damage Diego inflicted, as well as Rombeski being death gas, led to the finish. Diego's durability and more dynamic style actually gives me confidence in him having a good chance here, even with a close to pretty much a 10-year age gap on fight night. I think Grant Dawson will have a lot of success early, getting multiple takedowns and control time in the first round. And though Dawson has proven to be durable and have cardio to maintain a grapple-heavy game plan for 15 minutes, Diego has proven to be able to lift his work rate, maintaining cardio, and uses his jiu-jitsu to get back up or get reversals. Even in those losses to Gregor Gillespie and Dariush, he got reversals and defended pretty well, particularly with the Gamrot. He showed out really well defensively. On the feet, Diego has a variety of strikes in his arsenal. He's not necessarily accurate or polished, but he throws a lot out there, while Dawson is very limited, only throwing a variety of kicks to keep opponents at distance, and in the pocket, just single strikes. The difference on the feet is that Dawson is just biding time to eventually shoot, and Diego is willing to stay there, and he's very opportunistic with his own grappling. Dawson's striking defense also very penetrable. He does get away with it, weaker defense, as his opponents are usually like too worried about the takedowns to implement a strong striking game plan. But I don't think that's the case with Ferreira. Like he won't be worried about grappling coming in his way, and certainly won't be concerned with the strikes coming back at him. I think Ferreira can hurt Dawson on the feet sometime in the second as he ups the aggression. And when Dawson is forcing grappling rather than setting up takedowns, Ferreira will have the ability to defend a bit more easier, especially when fatigue sets in, and maybe even have his own grappling success. So um, I think Ferreira now, you said he's at plus 200?
Yeah, plus 210, I think it was. Yeah.
210. I got him at plus 235 the other day. Like I just had to play that since he has the striking upside. He has offensive and defensive grappling that in the past has shown to work effectively against grapplers similar to Dawson. So yeah, I played Ferreira at plus 235 for 1.25 units.
Very nice, mate. Great breakdown. I'm very interested in the same side also. I feel like I have a poor read on Dawson. Like I don't know. It's just he's been a guy that I've looked to fade. I just don't like. I know where he's good, and I understand that he has very good wrestling and control and win minutes. But I don't know. I think his overall skill set, in terms of striking, is just terrible. But he's managed to go this far. You know, and win. And he knows how to win. Really, that's the big point about him. But you can't I don't know. I just think his level of competition has been terrible. Like he's been in the UFC since what 2019, and he just hasn't fought anyone good yet. Like I like Demir. I think Demir Ismagulov. I've talked about him before. I really like his skill set, but he's a poor grappler, and he got dominated with the grappling in that fight. The best guy that he's fought is Bobby Green, and he knocked him out in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, I'll name the guys he's fought this far in the UFC: Julian Erosa, Mike Trezano, Derek Minner, Leonardo Santos, Ricky Glenn, Jared Gordon, Mark Madsen. Are those two I already mentioned? Joe Selecki and Rafa Garcia. This guy's had over nine fights in the UFC, and he still hasn't really fought anyone good. Like I don't know what the UFC is doing with this guy. They clearly like him or something because they just keep giving him softball matchups. It's bizarre. I don't know. I just think the book is kind of out on Dawson at this point. Like he's big and he's physical for the division. You know his game plan. He wants to take you down consistently. Look, sometimes land ground and pound when he feels like it. If not, he'll just take the back and try and win minutes. Like I said, he's one of the more frustrating fighters I personally find to watch. I kind of hate his style. I don't think his striking defense is very good, but it's clearly not his game. He's shown to just have chin issues at this point, in my opinion. I don't think he's durable, and I think that's kind of been the case for a little while. Cardio-wise, I think he has improved that part of his game where he has previously struggled, but admittedly, that is when he's the one dictating fights, which is almost always. So I'm still interested to see how he handles being on the back foot. In terms of Carlos Diego Ferreira, I think, look, this guy has fought a super high level of competition throughout his whole career. I think he's fought pretty similar competition already, and he's performed okay. Like the Gamrot fight, Gregor Gillespie, Benil, Dustin. This guy's basically made a career off fighting AT&T guys. I think his striking is actually pretty decent. I really like the way he mixes in his kicking game. His head kick is really sneaky. It's well-timed. I don't think his takedown defense is amazing, but you have to admit that his scrambling game is really high level. He's not super easy to hold down generally. People might have success getting to his hips easily enough. Gamrot had success with single legs. Rebecca had success with doubles. So I do expect Dawson to be able to take him down, but that's not the question for me. The question is if he can negate the counter grappling and keep him down, both of which, all those aforementioned guys did not have a huge amount of success doing. He does give up his back sometimes, but you can't do that with Dawson. Look, Ferreira's he's a black belt, but he's like a what's the word? He's like a third degree black belt.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously high. My concerns really, I don't love the age of Carlos Diego Ferreira, and I do think the ATT team knows him and knows his game extremely well at this point. But I think on the feet, Diego has the advantage. I think Dawson's youth and physicality will be a big part. I do expect him to have some success wrestling and probably take the back at points. I don't think CDF is infallible, and I do think he can be beaten just because, there's been a couple of fights where he gets these little injuries and quits and stuff like that. But you can't deny this guy causes serious issues at times. I don't like playing Dawson at chalk, just given his history. I think CDF is a pretty good look here, man. Is he going to get held down by Dawson? I don't know. We've seen him, not get held down by better fighters and better wrestlers and better grapplers. So I don't think it's a guarantee that Dawson is going to rack up minutes here. And if it's a striking fight, I think Diego is a much better striker. He's much more durable, much more volume. I think Diego Ferreira is a really live underdog here.
Yeah, and there's more paths to victory for him, given he can address the grappling of Dawson. And for Dawson, staying on top is the only path to victory.
100%. Have we even seen Dawson? You obviously went back like I did and watched some of those fights with Beneil and Gamrot, and some of those scrambles that these guys get in with Diego are unbelievable. Like there's about 50 different exchanges in the one exchange.
Yeah.
And you've also got I watched the Rebecca fight. The way, and that was just recently, he literally got butterfly hooks on Rebecca and controlled his arms and fucking kicked him about 5 meters away in the cage. Some of the defense this guy has, it's incredible. And he is 39, turning 40, which is an issue. But I think he performed really well against Rombetsky, who's the front runner, obviously. But the damage he put out there was psycho. Like I said, I think Diego's a very live underdog. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I think 235 is a very, very good number.
Yeah, that seeing as right now it's plus 200.
Yeah, plus 210.
It might go back up.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. He was plus 300 on Jan 11th, so 4 days ago. So if it goes back up and I get him at plus 235, I would 100% play that. I might even still play him at plus 210, or I might enter live. But yeah, I'm on board with you. I think he's a very, very live underdog.
I like it.
Even at the age. Imagine if he was 3 years younger.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that gives me a bit more confidence that we're both on the same side.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty a good look for an underdog this week. I think I've seen quite a lot of people on him. Moving up the card again, this is a new fight and one that I also haven't taped. I don't even know who this guy is, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I only found out just then.
Yeah, so it's nothing. I'm not going to say anything here. Bogdan Guskov, obviously the brother of the White Orc, Anthony Smith. So he will obviously beat Billy just off that. But no, we'll probably post something on our Twitter about these fights because, I haven't taped it. So we'll keep moving, I think.
Yep.
But let's have a look at the price. Yeah, Guskov is still a pretty big favorite, minus 300. The other guy's plus 250. So, yeah, we'll get back to you guys on that one. Up the card, I think so 2 more fights on the prelims.
Yeah.
We've got a heavyweight grappling match, which kind of looks all right, to be honest with you. Jalton Almeida, who is 21-3, taking on Sergey Spivak. Sergey Spivak is a great fighter. 17-4 prices. We're dealing with Jalton Almeida at minus 430 to minus 450, so a very, very big favorite. Taking on Sergey Spivak, who's plus 330 and open plus 260 all the way up to plus 330 now. So even more money is coming in on Jalton and probably will when the parlay boys get their hands on him. I might lead us off on this one.
Yeah, I got my hands on him, in a parlay.
Oh, nice. Let me just, where is he? Find the. Oops, sorry, one sec.
Oh, good.
Oh, here it is, Jalton. Yeah. Jalton. He's just so much more athletic and physical than most of the heavyweight bums. He will suffer, pure size disadvantage from time to time, but he's so much faster, more explosive and agile than just a typical obese heavyweight build. I do think he's built into his frame really well now, though. So I think that's kind of less of an issue. And I also think he's pretty clearly on the juice. I don't even think you can deny that at this point. He's so juiced up. It's not even funny. His overall wrestling game is incredibly solid, has double legs, single legs, and also just trips and throws that affect balance, which at heavyweight is massive because these guys have terrible balance. when he thrives is when he can work from half guard, looks to force you to kind of give up your back. And if he gets that position, incredibly hard to get him off. And he's a really good finisher from the back. I do think he's dominated nearly every opponent in the wrestling realm. His striking feels fine. It's not amazing, but he is fast and sharp, and he knows where his bread gets buttered. He doesn't strike for very long before he wrestles. He loves to throw the teep and explode under. He always looks to time that. He'll throw the teep first, and then as it comes back, he'll shoot the double leg. He absolutely controlled Blades, who always has been the best wrestler at heavyweight, allegedly. Blades had no answer really to get him off, and while he did lose that fight, I think he would have learned a lot from that fight in terms of intent and finishing intent. And you can't deny that Almeida absolutely dominated him in round one. Blades had no answer for him. I played Almeida in that fight, and I still think that was a sick beat.
Same. I'd play that all over again.
I would play that 10 times out of 10. He completely dominated him. I'd love to know what the live number was going into round two. Just lost a bit of urgency, and I do think he kind of potentially slows down with the pace like that, but it was a pretty hefty pace, and I don't think Sergey Spivak is going to be as defensively solid in terms of wrestling as that. In terms of Spivak, poor striker. I think he sums up his game pretty well. Poor striker, good grappler, average wrestler. I think he's going to be at a huge physicality disadvantage here. I would say he's the more technical, pure submission grappler. He's shown us that he's dangerous off his back if you're not careful. And in terms of pure submissions, he's probably the better grappler. But I think Almeida has huge upside here through, being on the juice and wrestling. Sergey feels sub or bust, but could have success late if, pushing scrambles on the ground. But I think that's pretty unlikely. I think Almeida should win well here. Hard to know if early or decision, just given his history. But, yeah, I think Almeida should be winning pretty well here.
Yeah, beautiful breakdown, man. Spivak, probably one of the roughest looking 29-year-olds I've ever seen. He's coming off that first round armbar win against Marcin Tybura just a few months ago. His pretty poor stand-up, and we've seen some heavyweights with superior striking or just slightly better striking catch him and put him away, like Cyril Gane, Aspinall, as expected. But Walt Harris even finished him like back in the day. But if he can get the fight to the ground, to the mats, he is lethal, like brutal ground and pound, which forces his opponents to cover up helplessly or force the referee to step in. Like as we saw in his last two wins, he can very well attack subs, but as of recent years, he's a takedown and ground and pound first kind of guy. Spivak, he mainly thrives when he's up against like the typical fat heavyweights with minimal to no grappling. Like look at his wins, Tybura and Derek Lewis by sub. He ground and pound finished Augusto Sakai, Greg Hardy, Jared Vendera, and he went the distance with Alexei Olenek, who's like 50 or something. Back in the day. Jailton Almeida, he's a powerhouse grappler, should probably be a light heavyweight, but has enjoyed plenty of success himself defeating fat heavyweights with no grappling. And as you touched up on, Almeida has grown into like the heavyweight build with the help of some steroids, probably.
Quite a lot of them, I would suggest.
Yeah, quite a lot of it. I always have that bad taste in my mouth when I think of Almeida versus Curtis Blades. That was just like we both played him. Like I loaded up huge units on him because I think he was minus 135 around that price range. It was pretty much a pick 'em. Yeah, and I just saw that, and I just threw massive units on him. He looked the part like in round one, and then round two just got elbowed to death. Other than that hiccup, he has absolutely dominated everyone in his path through his grappling, like TKO'd Shamil Abdul-Karimov, submitted Jairzinho Rosenstrike, who I have like a lot of time for. He laid on top of Derek Lewis for 25 minutes and choked out Alexander Romanov in his last fight. His stand-up is definitely not his strong suit. I feel he will struggle with like if he ends up fighting eventually like Tom Aspinall or the John Jones, as they're able to challenge his grappling, and on the feet, like they would probably dominate him. Today, I'm confident he would actually beat Tsarukyan and Volkov through his grappling. I'm wait, did he already beat Volkov?
Almeida.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they. I don't think they fought yet.
Oh, well, yeah. If that matchup gets made, I think I see Almeida winning that one. I'm confident that Almeida will get the win here. He's stronger, way more athletic. He's faster, just a better overall fighter than Spivak. I even think if Almeida decided to test his striking, he can probably knock out Spivak. Yeah, I think Almeida takes him down early, kind of just holds him there in round one, makes him work till the bell, and in round two, will take down a very fatigued and exhausted Spivak who will expose himself to a choke or cover up from ground strikes. So I might look at taking a nibble on a round two or round three prop. Most likely a round two, but yeah, I already did parlay Jelton Almeida, so I don't want to overexpose.
Yeah, smart. And like I think he would have, like I said earlier, I think he would have learnt a lot from that loss against Curtis Blades. Like when you have dominant position, you need to get out, you need to have output, and you need to land damage, and that's like the number one thing for a grappler to be successful. Even if you don't finish the fight, but you land enough damage, it's going to compromise your opponent. Like Moicano is a specialist at this because he's, if he's not like an insta sub on the mat, and I don't think Almeida is an insta sub on the mat either. So if you've got that dominant position where you're in half guard, full guard, whatever it is, you need to be landing damage. And if you did that in the Blaze fight, landed a bit more output, landed a bit more ground and pound, had a bit more success, maybe Blades wouldn't have had enough to, elbow the fuck out of him and win that fight like he did. So hopefully he's learnt a lot. He comes out and we see him show a bit more finishing intent. You don't have to blow your gasket, but when you've got the position, you need to be landing those elbows and big shots. So hopefully we see that improvement from him.
Absolutely.
And if not, maybe the steroids will take us far enough anyway.
Yep.
All right, up the card and to everyone's favorite, I won't say that word on YouTube, Peyton Talbot, 9-0, taking on Jauni Barcelos at 18-5. Biggest favorite on the entire card. We have Peyton Talbot, who opened at -900, which is disgusting. Currently sitting at -1200. And the comeback on Barcelos, open +600, sitting at +750 now. So, yeah, steep. You can lead us off on this one.
Yep. So Peyton Talbot, one of the most promising prospects in the UFC right now, who's probably a few fights, maybe 2 or 3 fights away from like title contender status at this point. Like he's the full package: fun, flashy style, one punch KO power, precise striking and timing, and shown to have pretty good takedown defense. In his contender series fight, he defended 16 out of 17 takedowns, and in his debut, defended 18 out of 20 and snatched up a submission in that fight. His striking is, however, already at an elite level, I would say. I'm already confident he can knock out a lot of these ranked bantamweights. I do remember prior to the Cameron Soman fight where there were criticisms around him starting fights a little slow, but that can be put to rest now as he came out firing in that fight against Cameron Soman, nearly finishing him multiple times in the first and then finding the left hook in the second. And in his last fight, that was a demolition, 19-second demolition of Gamori, just threw that one punch. Here he gets a bit of a, I'm reluctant to say layup, but yeah, it's a past his prime Barcelos, who he's someone I've backed in the past. Barcelos, he's a fighter who was on quite an upwards trajectory prior to the year 2020, where he only had the one defeat early in his record. Prior to the UFC, he had a very accomplished career, earning multiple titles in regional promotions against actual like decent competition. He went on a 5-0 run in the UFC, knocked out Holloway in debut, submitted Chris Gutierrez, and earned a unanimous decision win against Said Nurmagomedov and Khalid Tafa. He has a fan-friendly style, often producing some exciting firefights where he would display some aggressive striking, sort of Jose Aldo-esque in his style, and had a very effective grappling game to match with opportunistic jiu-jitsu. His exciting style, however, has proven to not have longevity. As post 2020, he's gone 2 wins and 4 losses, only getting finished by Umar, to be fair. But as he's quite old in the division, the margins for error have greatly slimmed. He did get the job done in his last fight against Christian Quinones. Very competitive fight where Basolos was able to secure a rear naked choke in the third round of a fight he was doing pretty well in. But Quinones is a fighter that the Basolos that fought Nurmagomedov and Gutierrez would have had no issue with. So I think it's safe to say Payton Talbot is the side here, and the odds reflect him as a massive favorite, which I just can't disagree with. Basalos has always been a bit hittable, but now since he's lost the speed and sharpness he once had and lost a bit of the durability, I will find it difficult to see him be able to last any longer than a round. Payton Talbot is so precise and hits so hard that I think the first shot he lands on the chin might even like put him to sleep. So yeah, I did get Talbot in that parlay that with Almeida with Bernardo Sopai. Got that in last week. So Talbot's
the juice parlay.
Juice parlay, but yeah, Talbot's price back then, I think he was paying like $1. I got Talbot at $1.13, $1.14. So now he's like $1.07 on there. But another play I'm going to look at, and I saw on Twitter like Dravi and Marlo Stanfield. Don't know if you follow those guys, but they got under 1.5 rounds at plus 110, which I think is a pretty good.
I was actually looking at that spot. I saw it on Twitter this morning as well. Plus one, it looks like it's about plus 135. Maybe you might get a decent, a little bit more. I agree. I think that could be a good look.
Yeah.
My breakdown is, what can you say about a minus 1,200 favorite? Like, Talbot is super slick on the feet. He has like this stalking pressure style that just kind of unnerves guys. He likes to move forward with very subtle footwork. I think he understands the distance and range game that he has success in extremely well. He's got fast hands. He attacks up the middle very well, with knees, and he throws well with combinations when he does get in the pocket. He attacks all 3 levels expertly. He just has solid speed, accuracy, and power. He kind of just fights with no respect for his opponent. I kind of expect that to continue here. I really can't get the vision of Nick Aguirre, I don't know how to say it, having so much grappling success against him out of my head, like at times. I will give him credit. He is very patient and calm when he's in bad positions on the mat, and I think he understands how to negate positions pretty well at times. But regardless, he did lose 7 or so minutes due to grappling in that fight. I do love that he holds his pace, aggression, and power late. He's dangerous through all 15 minutes. He's just a really solid fighter overall who's extremely promising, and keen to see how he looks against the step-up in competition here. In terms of Barcelos, very well-rounded MMA artist, has a very high-level grappling and wrestling background. I think he's like a Brazilian champion. He's got like a fucking coral belt or some bullshit. I think he's pretty decent everywhere, but just can't help feeling he's going to be at just such a large youth and physicality disadvantage. I don't love his defensive guard. I think he relies on distance and range, but his hands are super low, doesn't see a shot coming, and at 40, you can't take shots well, and I think Talbot's power is not to be messed with. I think he probably could have grappling success at times, but I think it feels like a kind of a matter of time until Talbot sort of hits him with something big and puts him down. I think I played him in that last fight against what was his name again?
Demore?
No, sorry, Barcelos. Quinones.
Quinones, yeah.
Yeah, I played him against Quinones. I felt like it was all right play. I don't know if you remember, but he popped his shoulder out in that fight.
Yeah, I had Quinones in that fight, so
yeah, right.
Remember that.
Barcelos popped his shoulder out in round 1, went back into the corner, popped it back in. So I think he gets a little bit of a pass on that performance, a little bit, but he still won by submission in round 3. So clearly just a dog. But yeah, I think Talbot's kind of unplayable at the number, obviously, but maybe, this is my notes. Talbot unplayable at the number, but maybe you can find a violent spot. So, yeah, I think under 1.5 probably is a good look. What is Talbot? Talbot TKO is minus 200. That's horrific for a prop. Yeah, I feel like that under 1.5 is probably the best look on the whole fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Beautiful. Now we get on to this main card, which is just banger after banger after banger. We kick off with Kevin Holland, who is 26-12, taking on Renier de Ritter. RDR prices, I think it's pretty much a pick 'em. Yeah, Kevin Holland -110, Rene de Ritter -110, I believe. Yeah, Holland opened at a -160 favorite, and RDR opened at +140. So a lot of money's coming in on RDR. Let me just pull my notes up on this one. Yeah, so Kevin Holland, just one of the more, untrustworthy guys you could ever want to put your own money on. He doesn't take fights serious, and he's just got a glaring takedown defense issue. I think he's a solid striker, karate-style stance, and likes to explode into range and use his length and, clear power to catch you. He has fought a pretty strong stable of grapplers before. He's fought Jacare Souza, Hamzat, and he's only really been submitted by Hamzat, which I think you can give him a pass for there, obviously, because he did defend relatively well in the short amount of time that fight was going on.
Agreed.
He has a decent offensive jiu-jitsu game himself, particularly his front headlock series, chokes, which he uses his long arms to do well. I think his gas tank over 15 minutes is solid. I think he will probably have some big moments here. I just hope that he doesn't, be too content to fight off his back, because we know what RDR is going to look for and kind of has to look for here. In terms of RDR, he's a grappler through and through. I think his striking is just dreadful on the feet. He fights out of southpaw. He's got a very tall man style of both defense and offense, which, tall man offense isn't really a thing. But when you watch RDR, that's exactly how you can describe it.
Yeah.
I think his boxing guard is terrible. His hands are low. His head's high. He's just super fucking hittable. I've literally never seen him move his head. He doesn't parry. He doesn't block a punch. I don't know if it feels like he's never done a fucking kickboxing class in his life. I think his entries into range are sort of just begging to be nailed on the center line. He looked like he was slowing down pretty bad in that GM3 fight. I know he got the finish in round 3, but physically, I don't love how he looked at the end. And even after he submitted GM3, he sort of laid on the mat for 2 minutes, sucking him in. So I don't know, just something to note there. In terms of pure submissions, have to give him the edge here. He's a super high-level grappler, but I do think Holland can compete on the mat. I don't think either of them are an insta-sub if it goes to the mat. Overall, no real lean on this fight, to be honest. I think Holland is live to just beat the dog shit out of him on the feet. But I also expect RDR to get takedowns at points also. And I think Holland could probably compete for the most part. But also, he just does the dumbest shit on planet Earth. I think RDR at dog money is a pretty good play. If I get Holland at jump at plus money, I probably will take that as well. I kind of think whatever side you get at plus money is probably the play, because I think both guys are going to have success in the fight at points. So, I don't have a play. It's probably going to be a pass for me, because I don't trust Holland, and I don't want to play juice on either guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. I looked at the fight last week and saw Kevin Holland as that heavy of a favorite, and I'm like, this guy as that much of a favorite. I'm not even sure he has this head in the game. He's just getting by, getting paydays and living off being a fan favorite.
Yeah, call him Cowboy.
Yeah, he's pretty much the new Cowboy, and pretty much I've always backed Kevin Holland as a underdog usually, and he's pulled through. And I backed against him when he's a favorite, and that's usually pulled through. So, I am gonna pass on this fight because this is just two guys that are very untrustworthy. I'll start with Kevin. He's the new Cowboy. He has powerful striking that can definitely KO RDR here if he lands. Kevin has 22 finishes of his 26 wins with 13 KOs and 9 subs. Yeah, Kevin stands tall, uses his reach well. I wouldn't call him an elite striker by any means. He's certainly around the mid-tier level in terms of skills, but he has very good finishing instincts when he got his opponents hurt, or even if he's hurt himself. He snatched up that sub against
Zajac.
Yeah, Zajac, after getting dropped. So, And he's only been KO'd twice, which weren't even really KOs, like both corner stoppages between rounds, like with Delize and Wonderboy. Grappling wise, Holland works well off his back, attacking a lot of subs, but against more proven grapplers, he can be controlled there. Like he's shown improved takedown defense since those losses to Vittori and Brunson, but he can still be taken down by higher and elite level grapplers. So I don't know if Holland can be backed here coming off that fresh rib injury. Don't know how serious that was. Must not have been too bad if he's already back, but yeah, I don't know where his mentality is at, and he's up against a strong grappler here who's never been subbed. So RDR, former one double champ, trained in jiu-jitsu and judo prior to his MMA debut in 2013. He has strong takedowns, judo throws, and good attacks and variety of subs when he's got his opponents down. What I like is he's never content to just secure position, but that's also a bit of his downfall. He's a submission over position kind of guy, and this has put him in danger in the past, though he's usually at the luxury of knowing he's so much better than his opponents on the ground, so he's not worried. He can just, in his head, he could just stay safe or reverse. Yeah, RDR is coming off a hard-fought debut against Gerald Meerschaert, where he admittedly did look pretty shit, like especially on the feet, but he got by and found a finish by arm triangle in the third. I think Gerald Meerschaert is a very tough debut when you have only a grappling approach to your game. Like Gerald Meerschaert, for once, he was the more polished striker out of the two, and Gerald like had both offensive and defensive grappling to compete. So I think though RDR looked pretty shit, and like you saw how exhausted he was in that fight, he should be. I could give him a bit of credit for that win. But yeah, he does not have good striking. He's very open to getting hit. Like he's been finished by TKO twice, which was within his last 4 fights. And I'm pretty sure in one of those fights, he just called it quits.
He got the shit beat out of him both fights.
Yeah, exactly. Which could very well happen here. So this fight is pretty much a pick 'em right now. Hard to trust either man. RDR is the level of fighter on the feet that Kevin can KO. But on the other side of that, he is the level in grappling that can just take Holland down and have their way with him. Like there may be openings for Holland as RDR is willing to put himself in compromising positions on the ground through chasing a finish, and due to his confidence in the grappling, he knows he can stay safe and get reversals. But Kevin does have very sneaky submission skills, like particularly dust chokes and triangles. I'm doubtful he gets one, but that might be an angle to like take a little nibble on. Yeah, not confident in this fight. I see people on Twitter are so confident on Holland winning here, and I just don't know how you can be so confident in a guy who doesn't really care about his career. If I had to make a prediction, I'd have to go RDR to win by submission. Something I might have a look on, but yeah, I'm just looking towards passing on this fight and just enjoying it.
Yeah, major pass for me. I think the main difference between the guys too is like Holland knows what he is. He's just a guy that comes in to get a paycheck, whereas RDR like kind of seems like he actually wants to go for the title. I don't think you'll get there, but you never know at middleweight. Like it's one of the shitter weight classes where weird things happen.
Yeah, but you look at that. I think we even looked at it in RDR's debut. Like you look at the middleweight division, and there's not many people you can see that he gets past.
Yeah, just because of the striking weakness. But he does have that grappling, so you just never know. But yeah, it's hard to be enthused about either guy at the number. Like, I also think both guys probably have like pretty relatively good favorite upside in this one. Like I think whoever wins will look like a clear favorite. Like I think either Holland will knock him out or RDR will just wrestle him and grapple him and have heaps of success there. So yeah, I'm not interested at all in this fight to bet on. No way.
Yep.
All right, up the card to another good fight. Beneil Dariush, 22-6-1, taking on Renato Moicano at 25-1. Prices are pretty close now. Renato Moicano -170. Looks like he opened. Oh, he didn't open, but he got his big of a favourite as minus 275 mid-December. There's been a lot of movement on this one. If you look at the tracker, it's up and down all over the joint. But yeah, he's sitting minus 170 currently. And the comeback on Beneil Dariush, who got as high as plus 235 at one point. That is an insane price. Sitting at plus 145 currently. So yeah, you can lead us off on this one, mate.
Yeah, so I'll start with Beneil. He is southpaw. Wouldn't call him a polished striker by any means, but he does have solid power. I find he's better with single strikes as he has good timing, especially with his left hand, particularly when opponents are coming in. He's just very slow, very hittable, and every movement is so telegraphed. Like when he's throwing combos, he loads up, has his chin up high, and like these punches are just so loopy as he's swinging. Dariush has been KO'd by Edson Barboza, Alex Hernandez, Charles Oliveira, and Arman, who were either able to counter from a read like they got on him, or just swarm him with pressure where he just freezes. He does not have a good chin and is prone to getting finished. Dariush's offensive and defensive grappling are his best assets. He's very heavy on top and will look to advance to dominant positions to threaten subs or just hold opponents there, pouring on damage. And against other grapplers, he's very hard to take down and control on the mats. Moicano, he fights out of an orthodox stance, solid striking, which is improving, mostly a Muay Thai style striker, but he too is quite hittable and known to get buzzed if hit in the right spot. His main path to victory has been through his grappling. He has 10 wins by sub and 8 wins by decision that have mostly been through his grappling prowess. But as of recent fights, he has earned 2 TKOs. Many of his losses were fights where he tried to strike with better strikers who ended up finishing him. So I feel at this point in his career, he has improved on his overall skill set, so he can definitely compete standing. But more importantly, he's improved his ability to execute game plans and be mature in the cage. He's not fighting with ego like he did trying to stand with Fiziev, Jose Aldo, and Korean Zombie. Like he knows the path to victory is his grappling. He knows how he can lose, and in his words, he can't afford to lose. So this is a fight I know I'm going to pass betting wise. Like both are the same age, but on opposite stages of their career. Like Moicano is on an upwards trajectory with very good wins, a 4-fight win streak, finishing 3 of those fights, and he's coming out of a headliner against Benoit Saint Denis, where he butchered him in round 1, and then they called the fight off in round 3, or just before round 3 started. And Beneil, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, being knocked out in both fights, and already talking about how he is considered retiring if things don't go well for him. So to me, Moicano is playable only as an underdog or anywhere from minus 120 to plus money. Like, yes, he battered Benoit Saint Denis, but the second round wasn't looking too red hot for him. And against Drew Dober, Drew Dober had his moments hurting him on the feet that forced Moicano to only wrestle. Luckily, Dober can't defend takedowns to save his life. So Beneil's striking isn't outside the realm of a Drew Dober and can even match the one-shot power and timing. And Jalen Turner, who is a southpaw just like Beneil, dropped Moicano in round 1 with a straight left from distance. But Jalen Turner in that second round just absolutely can I say quit? Or just yeah, he's a quitter and he quit. So Beneil will also be the first solid grappler that Moicano's fought since Moicano's defeat to Rafael dos Anjos. And RDA, he's usually the one getting out-grappled by grapplers, and he out-grappled Moicano, albeit that was a short notice fight. But yeah, Beneil also being a very solid anti-grappler could trouble Moicano, especially if Beneil lands a solid shot on Moicano, gets him hurt, and Moicano's trying to force these grappling exchanges that are just not going well for him. So on the other side of that, I find it hard to back Beneil as a dog too because of recent form, and he seems to have one foot already out the door, and he's just seeing how things will play out in this fight before he calls it quits. I just saw that recent interview he did where he is already throwing the word retirement out if this fight doesn't go well. But yeah, who's to say he doesn't come out with a great performance that forces this fight to be tooth and nail? He very well could defend all of Renato's grappling, forcing a stand-up fight, and then hurt Moicano in the feet with a well-placed overhand left. So I just can't trust Moicano at this price. I do think he wins on the scorecards, but yeah, I have no action here.
Great breakdown, mate. You touched on pretty much every point that I had written down as well. I'll go through my breakdown quickly, but that's pretty much my exact read. Like, I don't think Beneil has sort of ever had a boring fight. His fights are fun. They're not the most technical striking affairs you're ever going to see, but they're fun on the feet. Their grappling is amazing. He's well-rounded, man. Like, I actually think his grappling is probably his best asset in terms of like his ability to scramble. He has okay wrestling. It's not amazing, but his best trait is his ability to stuff your attempts, win top position through scrambles, and just pressure you. Like you said, fights out of southpaw, striking is fine. He has pretty solid power, but I think his overall movements are like a bit herky-jerky. They're not really fluid or whatnot. His lead hand is pretty much non-existent. Like, it doesn't do a lot for his style. It really just exists to make openings for his rear leg or his rear kick. He's not really landing much of volume or significance with him, which probably plays out well in this one, given that southpaw versus orthodox and the lead hands are going to be non-existent anyway. So probably plays to his strengths. He's got no real footwork or head movement, probably why he wears a lot of shots. I kind of just feel like his style is hard to maintain with his age and wear and tear. Like, it feels like he needs to force a sort of a dogfight, and I kind of don't think he has that in him anymore. You can't argue with his level of competition, though. It's extremely high level, and I think some time off isn't the worst after that finish against Tsarukyan. But at the same time, do you think Moicano fares any better against an Oliveira or a Tsarukyan? Probably not. He's got serious chin issues as well, and I think Tsarukyan would probably knock him out, and I think Oliveira would probably knock him out as well. So you can say what you want about the finishes. Obviously not the best look, but against high-level competition, man. On to Moicano. I kind of think he's a similar fighter to Dariush in that his striking is probably fine, but his striking defense and chin can let him down. He fights out of orthodox. He fights long with his strikes really well, but just has poor striking defense, doesn't react to shots well. Head movement can be minimal, and I think his range is just poor. Just seen him wear a lot of rear hand shots, and you have to question his chin at this point. I think his grappling is sensational. He's not an insta-sub when it gets to the mat or anything, but he really just excels when he can get a body lock. He's not really, I wouldn't say he's the double leg sort of wrestler, but if he can get into the clinch and work body locks, he's very physically strong and has a very good ability to affect balance expertly to get the fight to the mat. He's also very, very good at taking the back if you give it up for a second when trying to scramble back to the feet. And, in that BSD fight, he showed some really nasty ground and pound, and he showed that in the Dober fight as well. When he can secure top control, whether it's half guard or full guard, it's just that's one of the major differences, I'd say, compared to Dariush. Overall, I don't really understand the matchmaking. Like, you've got a guy in Moicano who is on the rise, who is a fan favorite, who is a star, really, at this point on the mic. And you've got an older guy who's sort of like a difficult matchup for a lot of guys who's failed at the top level in Dariush. So why do they risk this when we could have had like a Paddy versus Moicano tough fight or a fight in London or something like that? I don't understand the matchmaking in this one. Moicano's win condition has always kind of been via grappling, especially in his past several fights. But I don't know. I just can't really see him having huge grappling success versus Dariush, whose scrambling ability is just top notch. It feels like either could clip each other at any time. And I think grappling wise, we've got far more data that Moicano, potentially might fade more than we've ever seen Dariush do in like the grueling grappling style match where it's just constant entries and takedown defense and scrambles and up and down. And when have we ever seen Dariush perform bad in that kind of fight? We really haven't.
No. He just gets.
He just has a poor chin. I do think Moicano could land more damage on the mat, but on the feet, it's pretty close. I think Moicano is probably slightly more fluid, but I think Dariush probably has more power. Like you said, major concern for Dariush is the retirement talk and stuff like that. You never like hearing it, and just the overall trajectory. So, I think it's dog or pass in this fight. I don't know how. Like, I completely agree with what you said with the pricing of Moicano. I think there's a very particular price where he is extremely playable, and I don't think it's his fight. This is kind of I think this is a very similar setup to the Dawson versus Ferreira fight, in that we've seen those guys have success. We've seen both of those underdogs have success in what this fight probably looks like. I love Moicano. I hope he wins because it's good. It'll be better for the sport, but I can't get to him at -170. I think it has to be dog or pass.
Yeah, I'll just enjoy this one.
Yeah, and I'm leaning pass because it's just, it's ugly. But anyway, it's a good fight, though. It's a really good fight.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. All right, up the card to the feature fight of the evening at light heavyweight.
Love this.
And this might define friendships. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yuri Prohaska 35-1, taking on Jamal Hill 12-2. Price wise, it's nearly a pick'em. Like, it's pretty much even. There's been, if you look at the map again, very funny pricing flipping between slight favorites on each guy. But Jamal Hill, slight favorite, -120. Comeback on Yuri Prohaska is +100. So slight favoritism to Hill, but it's pretty even. I'll kick us off on this one. I'll start with Yuri. I think his best and worst attribute is just how unorthodox he is. Like, in terms of his footwork, the angles he attacks from, the way he applies pressure and his feints. I just, defensively, I hate it. His hands are super low, which I don't love, especially versus a good, fundamental boxer in Hill. Yuri, big, physically strong, better footwork than Hill, I'd say. And I'd say he's far more athletic than Hill as well. The overall damage he can inflict in such a short amount of time is pretty unmatched. He just swarms you with shots that comes from his hips and attacks your head and body really well in variety as he charges forward. I rewatched that Reyes fight last night. Dude, just brutal. Like,
yeah,
the pace that he fights at is just insane. Obviously, his game revolves around him being able to take shots, which you don't love, especially against a guy like Hill, who's got good boxing and good power and good ability to finish fights. Yuri, has experience fighting high-level southpaws with similar frame as Hill, but I don't think Hill obviously has experience fighting anyone like Yuri. I don't think there is anyone like Yuri. But look, I think we'll find out pretty quickly if the damage from those Pereira knockouts have, altered Yuri's ability to take damage. I just think the number one thing for him in this fight is he needs to be super aware of that rear hand of Hill. I think that's the danger shot for sure. On to Jamal Hill. Look, personally, I'm not a huge fan of him. I think he's hilarious on Twitter, but also just an idiot, just an absolute idiot. I just don't know how to feel about him. Like, he's confusingly awful by the eye test, but somehow really impressive at times too. So it's kind of conflicting to watch. He fights out of southpaw, very flat-footed boxing style that appears basic, but I think I like that because he is very good at those specific basics. He throws straight down the pipe extremely well, and I think power-wise can definitely match it with Yuri. I think he definitely rushed back after that Achilles injury versus Pereira. That's a pretty serious injury, and it's not something that you can just come back from quickly, which he did. And I don't think he looked his best in that fight. He also is coming off the back of a knee injury where he was slated to fight Ulberg, which got cancelled. So he's had two major injuries that he's coming back from now. So that's an interesting one for me. I don't think he dealt with the pressure of Pereira very well. In saying that, I don't think Yuri did either. Haven't really seen much grappling from him. Probably won't see it here unless Yuri looks to grapple, which I probably doubt. In terms of his quality of competition, I don't know. I personally feel like he's had a bit of a soft run, which might be more of a knock on not him, but the light heavyweight division overall. We know it's all soft, but his rise was, I don't have it open in front of me, but I remember the first, sort of standout performance was the knockout of Jimmy Crute. Who hasn't sort of knocked Jimmy Crute out at this point? He lost to Paul Craig before that, And then he had Johnny Walker, who hasn't knocked out Johnny Walker. And then he had that, round 4 win over Santos, which I didn't think was overly impressive. And then he took, the performance against Glover was incredibly impressive. I'd say more from a stats perspective, given the volume output. But in saying that, that was a Glover that Yuri had already beat. And that was an absolute war. So who knows if, that was the best version of Glover. Obviously it wasn't. And then he had the fight against Pereira where he got knocked out. We haven't seen him since then, but he's had another major injury. So I don't know. It just feels like he's had a little bit of a soft rise to the top. Overall, like any Yuri fight to me is really difficult to break down and understand. You have to expect that Yuri comes out here with his sort of standard pressure and awkward stunting style of footwork to move forward and use little head slips in and out to enter range on Hill. I think the best and worst place for Yuri is when his opponent, has his opponent against the cage with their back foot, because this is where typically he looks to unload with combinations, but also where his opponent probably has the most chance to catch his defenses lacking with like a big overhand or like a big cross. I also think Yuri is super vulnerable in the pocket, exiting clinch exchanges. This is where I think Hill has a big chance to knock him out. I don't have a strong lean in this fight. I think quality competition-wise, you have to give it to Yuri, and I think his style is so hard to prepare for, but he's just got such poor fundamentals that I think if Jamal Hill is, in decent condition and isn't suffering those injury woes, I think, his straight shots are really going to worry Yuri. But at the same time, do I think Jamal's power is a little bit overrated? Maybe slightly, because he's really only knocked, like his finishes have been OSP, Jimmy Crew, Johnny Walker, and Thiago Santos. I think Yuri would probably literally murder and leave a dead body in that cage if he fought those guys.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong lean on this fight. I think prices are probably accurate. Like, I think it's hard to get around Yuri at like a big favorite price tag. But I also am not particularly intrigued at Hill at -120. I don't know. I don't have a strong read on this fight, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's a pick your poison. Don't
Yeah, I'd agree.
Great breakdown, man. I'll start off with Yuri. He fights with a very unorthodox style. He can work from both stances, carries his hands down by his hips, and moves around the cage with like bouncy footwork. His style relies on active head movement and footwork. Like when he attacks and comes forward, he's constantly shifting his head left and right and backwards to create openings to attack. At distance, he will pull his lead hand out to draw out an attack, and then will look to slip and counter with combos. His attacks from distance are hard to read because he's constantly moving his torso, and his punches are coming from his hips. It's just a little bit difficult to time, but defensively is where he is at his weakest. Like as his hands are down, his forward pressure approach leaves him wide open. He's been cracked by pretty much everyone he's fought in the UFC and absorbs a lot of strikes. Like he absorbs 5.59 strikes per minute, while Jamal Hill only absorbs 3.51. But that's the thing with Yuri. Like backing him to win a fight means you have to accept the fact that he's going to get hit by his opponent. But he has proven to be durable, taking the best shots and outlasting every opponent in UFC except for his 2 fights with Alex Pereira. Jamal Hill, he's coming off a KO loss to Pereira as well, where he has absolutely just dragged on about it and ultimately led to the MMA community like turning on him. Not that many people were on him like in the first place, but despite how unlikable he is and how he got finished in his last fight in devastating fashion, like we can't overlook that he is dangerous. Like Jamal is a southpaw with not a lot of KO power, but like he has good KO instincts. Like he's athletic, fast, and fights long. He often looking to catch opponents with boxing combos as they enter range, or land straight shots and hooks as he pressures opponents backwards. While he's mostly a boxer, he does throw well-timed head and body kicks. That's how he maintains range and keeps opponents at bay or have them moving backwards. He works very well in the clinch, where he will sneak in knees like to the body and as opponents lower their head, will throw knees to the head as well. He has a high output that just builds and builds as fights go longer. And once he catches opponents, he keeps combos flowing. Like he lands 7.18 strikes per minute and has an accuracy of 54%. What concerns me about Jamal Hill is I think we've already seen the best of him. Like since winning the title in January 2023, he's been out with significant injuries. That's resulted in a lot of time off. He's too focused on social media. He gets out of shape. And after the KO loss to Alex Pereira, he accepted that fight with Ulberg and got injured again. Just wonder like what version of Hill we get here. And opposite to Jamal Hill, like Jiri has only applied way more focus to fighting following his loss to Alex Pereira. And while it doesn't seem like he's making these stylistic adjustments that Pereira exploited or anyone else has exploited, he's purely focused on training, fighting, and evolving as a fighter, albeit in like odd ways. Jamal, on the other hand, cares so much about showing up at UFC events, getting attention, making videos for his YouTube. It just seems like he's constantly trying to remind people he's still here. Like I think in this fight, mindset and where their heads are at is something to definitely look at in this fight, especially because Yuri put so much importance on his samurai approach to fighting, and Hill is out there just getting butthurt on social media to like we can probably tweet him right now and he'll just reply straight away. Um, Stylistically, more importantly, they will be at opposite stances, meaning that the leg kicks that have affected Yuri in previous showings will not be as much of an issue. And in terms of grappling, I doubt we'll see much other than the clinch where Hill does have openings for that to land knees. Pure striking, Jamal has the ability to piece up Yuri as of most fighters that has fought Yuri. Like while Jamal has one punch KOs in his resume with Walker and Jimmy Crute, a lot of his KOs were accumulative strikes that resulted in TKOs. Like, I believe Yuri can take Hill's punches, drag the fight out to the second round, continue to walk forward and land more and more as Hill is forced backwards from Yuri's pressure. Hill just doesn't seem to be as effective when he's moving on the back foot, but he is good at countering when he's got his like feet planted, ready to time you coming in, which is where I think he can catch Yuri. But if he's moving backwards defensively, getting overwhelmed, he's definitely very hittable. I think Hill's overall footwork is also not his strong suit. I remember that video everyone was sharing around of Hill moving around the cage against Glover, like he's like crossing his feet with like the worst footwork you'll ever see. But
he legit has like the flattest feet I think I've ever seen in my life. Like he looks like he's wearing flippers.
Yeah, exactly. And if he hasn't fixed that up in his game, like I could imagine a pressuring forward style, like finding Hill off balance, like very consistently. So the fight right now is a pick 'em, and like I just think Yuri can take this one. I did make a play on him for 2 units, and yeah, I think he can get a finish in the second round by TKO, probably landing something as Jamal Hill was moving back. But yeah, I think where their heads are at is something important to look at in this fight.
Yeah, I agree. That dude is at every fucking UFC Vegas show, isn't he?
Yeah, he was just in the just at Apex just then.
He's legit at every fucking every single one.
Yeah.
I think if Hill wins, it's probably early. Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah. While they're fresh.
I think if he wins, he's probably knocking him out early or like severely damaging him in round one. One thing that I noticed last night is I looked at that significant strikes landed per minute for Hill, and I was like, 7.18. That's fucking astronomical. What the hell was going on there? It's slightly, well, it's not. It's in the Glover fight. He landed 232 strikes. So it's like pretty severely lopsided from that fight. Earlier, like in his first two fights, one in Dana White's Contender Series and the Stozic, Darko Stozic fight, he landed 93 and 101, and then after that, it kind of all evens out. So that is a little bit front loaded. That stat. It's just something else to know. I don't think he has. Like I think he has pretty good volume. But yeah, something a little bit front loaded. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I hope Yuri wins. Don't you think Yuri and like I put Yuri and Charles Oliveira in like their own bracket of like nervousness when you watch them fight, like because anything could happen at like any second, and the way they fight with their pressure, it's so like unintelligent that you're just watching like oh my god, like someone's gonna fucking get clipped here at any point.
Yeah, like you can watch them get dominated in round one and just be like, yeah, as long as they're in there, like they can win it from you.
Yeah, when I watched that Reyes fight back, like all I could think was if Yuri puts this pace and pressure and footwork and damage on Hill early, does Hill? I don't know. Have we ever seen Hill like be able to come off the back of that? Like he showed pretty good grit in that Craig fight where he got his arm snapped to like not tap out and to keep going. But have we seen him like wear damage like that and really stay in the fight? Because you got to give it to Reyes, man. He got the fucking dog shit beat out of him against Yuri, and was still throwing to the end. So I don't know, just something else to note. I think, I hope Yuri wins. But I also don't because I don't want to see him get knocked out by Pereira again. I don't know. It's going to be a fun one, man. It's one for the fans, and I always think too, like with Charles and Yuri, it's fucking sad seeing them lose. Like,
you really feel it.
I never get devastated like when fighters lose, but those two, whenever they lose, I end up just getting pretty deflated. I'm like, oh man, it sucks.
Yeah, like in UFC 3, I think it was 300. If both of them lost that night, that would be breaking.
Would have been real flat. But yeah, good fight. I think it's going to be awesome. So just another good fight for this 311 card, man.
Love it.
All right, moving up to the co-main event of the evening, the bantamweight title fight. Got the champion Merab Dvalishvili at 18-4, taking on Umar Nurmagomedov at 18-0. Prices wise, we have the challenger at a pretty steep favorite price of -310, and the comeback on Merab at +250. Merab has to be one of the most. He's like a Bilal, like one of the most profitable fighters to bet on at underdog prices because he never gets favoritism, but has been on just a tear, man. You can lead us off here.
Yeah, so Merab, he's someone who I've doubted time and time again. As far back as against Jose Aldo, Peter Yan, and most recently Sean O'Malley. Like I believe they're more skilled than him, and I think I'll get to that later. But Merab's striking, while it ain't terrible, to me, it's just mid. Like he does pack a lot of power into his punches, and he's quite fast when he throws combos, but the punches are short, loopy shots. Defensively, Merab is hittable and can be hurt, but has remained relatively safe on the feet as of late. Like we all know how he was nearly finished by Marlon Moraes years ago. But since then he hasn't really been hurt. Like he's copped a nicely placed shot against Cejudo like early in their fight, and I think he was getting hurt by body kicks by O'Malley in round 5 of their last fight, but that was too little too late. His stand-up, however, is just a means to an end, and that is his grappling. Like Merab's style is to drown his opponent with non-stop grappling, and his ultimate weapon is that cardio. That cardio is what has bridged the gap in the skills. Like where I think Jose Aldo, Peter Yan, and Sean O'Malley are better, I think Merab's cardio is absolutely what has gotten him over the line in those fights. Like he seems to have an unlimited gas tank in every fight, no matter how highly I rate his opponents. The pace takes its toll and wears them out to where everything that makes his opponents effective does not work anymore. Like when I say his grappling is non-stop, like I mean it. Like against Jose Aldo, he attempted 16 takedowns and did not land a single one. But Aldo constantly defending made him completely unable to get a semblance of a game going. Against Peter Yan, he landed 11 out of 49 takedowns. And same thing with Aldo. It rendered Peter Yan completely unable to get a game going.
How many?
11 out of 49 takedowns.
49 shots. That has to be unheard of.
Yeah, I had to I rewatched the fight and was just like I played it on fast and I was like, yeah, that's definitely like after like the 20 mark is when I was like, yeah, it's probably 49. When he fought O'Malley for the title, I thought his deficiencies as a striker, as well as being in the same camp as Aljo, someone O'Malley was able to defend takedowns against and then KO, would spell the end of this winning streak, but we were definitely wrong. But in the UFC, I believe he has yet to fight someone with both better striking and has an answer for his grappling and pace. And this weekend, we might just see that. Umar, he's Khabib's undefeated cousin who's had title implications to his name since his debut in 2021. Many people who may not be familiar with Umar might be quick to assume Umar fights with like the typical Dagestani game plan of bringing the fight to the ground and staying on top. And while he can do that, his striking is high level. And the way he mixes in both his striking and grappling is what makes him a puzzle for opponents. Umar can fight from both stances, but he's primarily orthodox. Typically at kickboxing range, he's bouncing in and out, moving laterally, and will throw a variety of kicks from distance. Once he's in the pocket, he throws very fast hands, but he just won't stay there. He usually angles out or leaps back, which makes him very hard to catch. His striking defense is at 63% accuracy, and he only absorbs 1.36 strikes per minute. Since he's so in and out of the pocket and consistently working, he has opponents kind of bewildered on how they can catch him on the feet. And as the fight drags on long enough standing, Umar's takedown entries, even though opponents know he's going to shoot, come as a complete surprise and are very hard to defend. And even if they are defended, much like Merab, like Umar will continue to work and eventually get the fight to the ground where he has top control, much similar to Khabib and Islam. There were question marks to Umar's level of competition, however, but I think the Corey win definitely won over a lot of doubters. Like he executed an amazing game plan where he ended up outclassing him throughout 5 rounds. On the feet, it was closely competed early, as expected. Like Corey is a high level striker, and Umar matched him there, but Umar started to separate himself as the fight went on, with how he built on the grappling, becoming more and more successful in his takedowns and control as the fight wore on. And ultimately, on the feet, Corey was unable to build on any of his own success. And Umar's maintained his work rate, capitalized on Corey being defensive minded, both in the striking and takedowns. So, as much as I'm reluctant to allow myself to be proven wrong once again, fading Merab, I think what we learned is that just being a better striker and having good takedown defense is not what it takes to beat Merab. Those things are definitely a part of it, but on top of that, it's to have the strength and conditioning to be able to defensively grapple for 25 minutes, but also maintain and build on an offensive striking or grappling game to separate themselves in each round. Like Jose Aldo, he defended every single takedown, but his strength and conditioning didn't allow him to execute that boxing game plan. With Petr Yan himself, who was known for his defensive grappling, he also didn't have the conditioning to get his striking going. Same with Cejudo and O'Malley. Umar, however, has the stylistic attributes, in my opinion, to trouble Merab through his striking and his proven grappling ability, especially through 5 rounds. I think in the early stages, Umar will tag Merab on the feet, winning minutes and successfully defend takedowns. And as the fight wears on, I think Merab's continued lack of success will make him into an even more hittable target through moving and attacking in straight lines and shooting out in the open. I see Umar remaining bouncy, having constant movement around the cage, maintaining speed and accuracy. And when Merab comes in, he'll continue to defend effectively, sprawling and staying balanced. And he might even have his own success grappling Merab, like on the ground, from a successful sprawl and back take. So though Merab's cardio will definitely hold up, he doesn't have a dynamic fighting style that makes him able to adapt or set up new attacks to worry Umar through the distance. Like he'll just continue to come forward, chase the takedown, come forward, chase the takedown, which has worked in the past, but I feel Umar is the style he won't get past. Like I think Umar can win this fight by decision, and I'm considering a play on Umar by decision at plus 110. Nothing too high, maybe even just 1 unit. End of the day, though, like Merab has beaten 4 high-level names, and Umar has really only beaten the one. So I wouldn't want to overexpose on that. But I do have this fight going the distance in a parlay with the main event.
Lovely breakdown, mate. I really don't have much to add. Like I'm much the same. Would have not been a Merab doubter, but just like his overall skill set is not amazing, but he like what he's good at, he's incredibly good at, like his cardio and his pressure and his consistent wrestling and pace is really like that's his game. He, like you said, he's a terrible striker. Is he going to be able to strike with Umar here? I don't think so. Not especially not at kicking range. Umar is a much better, more fluid, more power, more technique, harder to hit. I still have a little bit of question on Merab's chin. At times, like seeing her and just wobbled, but you can't deny like his grit in fights. Do you remember the Ricky Simone fight back in the day?
Yep.
Do you remember that one?
I remember
when Ricky had him in the deep. I think it was a guillotine, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a guillotine, and then he was just like riding his bike, like as
he's just. It was literally in for like it was longer than 30 seconds. It was like a
minute,
minute almost.
A minute.
And his feet are just going boom, 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 and he went out, but he like never stopped. So like, you need to kill this guy if you want to get him out of there. Like you just cannot deny his grit and his intent. I mean, the main question for me in this fight is like, can he consistently wrestle and it's really wrestling, because I think Umar has a huge pure grappling advantage. I think he's a much more fluid grappler. I think he has more submissions. I think he has more dangerous submissions. So it's like, can Merab win this off wrestling alone? I'm not sure. Khabib has come out and said that even he knows that Merab is like a better pure wrestler than Umar, but that might not be enough in this fight, given that, that might be enough to separate. Umar might have enough to separate, keep it striking, work his grappling. It feels like Umar has more assets and tools to win this fight. I mean, the main question is, can he like put up with the pace and the effort of Merab over 5 rounds? We haven't seen him like he went over 5 rounds obviously with Corey, but was it a hard pace? Not really, because he was the one dictating things. So I think he still has a question mark over that. And I think if Merab is shooting 49 shots, like that has to be one of the more impressive performances I've ever seen. Like, obviously it was annoying as a Yarn fan and like as an overall MMA fan to see like that style of fight. It's really frustrating, but it must be even more frustrating when you're in there with him. Just like, how do you get space and how do you get this guy off you? It feels. I can't back Umar because I think that's just too wide of a guy, and I need him to prove it to me first. And I think that Sandhagen fight was similar, where it was like a prove it fight. And I think this feels like a dog or pass, but I think I'm just going to pass. There's just too many unknowns. I think the heat behind the fight could play out to either guy's advantage. Like when there's these fiery matchups, it doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be violence, or it doesn't necessarily mean, like we've said, like remember the Cap versus Makhachev fight, where they're literally street fighting the day before, and then they come out and they just have a staring contest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the fight. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited to see it. I think Umar should be the favorite, but I can't back him, and I don't think Merab is. It's hard to say he's not worth the value as a dog, because it's all he's done is win as a dog.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can get to him either. I think I'm just going to pass and just enjoy this one as a fan personally.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that as well. Like I said, the only action I have so far on this is the fight to go the distance.
Yeah.
If I don't get on a play on Umar by decision at plus 110, I'll be happy to just like have this fight go to the decision.
So, and why do you lean go the distance? What's your sort of thoughts there?
I think they're both so good in the grappling that I don't think either will get a submission over each other, and I don't think Umar hits hard enough to KO Merab, and I don't think Merab hits hard enough to KO Umar. I think this will be just closely contested over 5.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if it's a finish, I think it's probably like pretty clearly on the Umar side. I would think.
Yeah.
I was just looking at some round props, like under 4.5 is plus 220. So obviously the books are pretty confident that it goes the distance as well. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't think there's nothing really I love on this fight in terms of play. So I'm pretty happy to pass and go to the main event, really.
Yeah, mate, we'll be enjoying this one with a beer.
Yes, we will. And now on to the main event. It feels like one of the most high-level fights we're probably going to see this year, right?
Yeah, like it took me like 2 days to come around to this fight.
How much fun was it to watch their last fight and like the lead up? Like I honestly had such a ball breaking this fight down and watching tape, and I haven't had that for a while where I'm like a contested main event, right? Well, I'm always interested, obviously, but this one I was like, dude, this is so good.
Yeah, like I'm like genuinely enjoying like sitting here watching it, like
100%.
sipping on a coffee, writing down notes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a lot of these fights, like you just kind of just going through the motions.
Yeah, not this one. Okay, so we got Islam, obviously the champion, Islam Makhachev, 26-1, taking on the challenger, Arman Tsarukyan, 22-3. Prices minus 370 for Islam. He opened. I think he opened plus 200. Oh, he opened minus 300, but he got as high as minus 200. And then he got as low as minus 370. Minus 400. It looks like.
Oh shit!
A few days ago. Now he's back up to 370. So bit of money coming in for Arman. And Arman got as low as plus 175 early December. And now he's he got as high as plus 350. And you can get him, I think the most you'll probably find him for is plus 310 at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll start this one, man. I love this fight. I fucking love this fight. I think it's amazing. I think this is just such a good stylistic matchup for both guys to have success that I'm really, really excited for it. What can you say that hasn't been said about Islam at this point? Like, obviously, he got the Dagestani wrestling background where he's just incredibly dominant. I loved his fight against Poirier. I think his submission offense in that fight, like the way he finished that fight, was just so impressive. But also, Dustin has kind of like been subbed by everyone. So, like, I think the actual finish was very, very impressive. The way he. Do you remember he grabbed the leg and he did?
Yeah.
Is the name? I cannot remember the name of the technique, but he did the big sweep. Like I've done it in MMA before, and then worked the Darce in from there. So that finish was incredibly high level, and I loved watching that. But I think he also probably should have subbed Dustin probably earlier, if anything. But yeah, what can you say about this guy that hasn't been said? You know, fights out of southpaw. He actually has like a pretty good kickboxing offense. I'd say cousin Umar probably has the best striking out of the whole Daggy tribe, but I think Islam's probably just behind him. The way he, attacks the head with the head kick, I think that's going to be a massive weapon for him in this fight, given the opposite stances. I think that back leg's going to be going. I think his punches are all right. Like, he's pretty good in exiting clinch range. Poirier had a little bit of success when Islam would try and get the Thai plum, and Poirier was just sort of boxing to the body heap in that fight. I'm curious do you have any take on, do you think he looked better in the Poirier fight, or do you think he looked worse? Or do you think it was just that stylistic matchup?
I think it was that stylistic matchup. I think it was Poirier really stepping it up, and Islam. I think he looked just as good. It's just that Poirier lifting his game and defensively on the grappling is what it was a close fight, but like Islam at like no point was ever in trouble, I felt.
Yeah, I'm like kind of curious because there's been two distinct times where you've seen Islam like not shook, but he kind of has this look in his eyes, and it was the time where Poirier's in his face barking, and it was the time in Perth when Volk was just going ballistic, like, putting that pressure on. And it's interesting. I think if Arman applies some pressure here, it just makes this a dogfight. That's obviously where he's going to have most success. In that Poirier fight, like Khabib was just going ballistic, telling him to take him down and do this, and like he didn't want him striking with him. And Poirier's takedown defense not the whole fight. The whole fight was pretty poor, but round 4 specifically, he was just too strong, too physical, and really just shucked Islam off a couple of times, made it a dogfight in that round, and then obviously went out and got finished. But he landed some really good damage on Islam as well, who doesn't seem to wear damage really well. But yeah, I like the first time we saw this fight, we didn't see like a heap of striking exchanges from either of the guys. It was more just a wrestling grappling match. And even though it was that, it was still super high level and super entertaining. Obviously, both guys younger, Arman's debut and whatnot. But the way that they scrambled, that was like 4 years ago or something like that. the way that they were able to engage and scramble, and even Arman was able to take him down in that fight. I think we're in for a banger matchup here. In terms of Arman, I'd say he's a pretty good kickboxer. His main flaw would be his striking defense is a little bit hittable, and I question his chin, especially when exiting range. Like I've seen him clipped a few times. Obviously, in that Joaquin Silva fight, he got clipped. He's been worried a couple of times, and we haven't seen Islam like really worried. The only time we have it is against Volk. So I think that's just something to note. But the way that Arman attacks with kicks into range, I think that's probably his best asset. He's not super damaging with his punches, I would say. It's more like his knees and his kicks. He's got a really good variety of kicks. He'll throw the leg kicks, he'll throw like spinning kicks, he'll throw axe kicks really regularly. And there's been a lot of talk about this secret technique that he's going to use in this fight. No one really knows what it is, but if I had to guess, I would say it's a kick of some variety. I think he fights with amazing pressure. I think he's going to need to be the one pressuring in this fight. But yeah, he's good, man. He's getting better. He's young. He's physical, which I think you need to be to beat Islam. He's obviously going to be shorter, but he's got a longer reach. He lands with good volume. The only question is we haven't seen him really have like a hard 5-rounder with lots of grueling grappling sequences. And I think that might be a little bit of a difference here. I think this fight, again, similarly to the co-main event, I think it's dog or pass, man. I want to be on the Arman side because I think that number is just wide. Like, for what he's going to bring and for the success we saw him have in the first fight and for where both guys are at now, I think Arman has to be the side. Yeah. Do I really want to bet against Islam? Not particularly. But I think Arman moneyline feels like probably the best bet on this entire card. Personally, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. If that money line gets up as high as 350, plus 350, like I'm almost inclined like to just autoplay it without thinking. But so I think Arman is as skilled of a grappler as you can get. He has relentless chain wrestling, powerful takedowns, dominant top control where he uses heavy ground and pound and elbows as he is in his opponent's guard, looking to advance to mount, side control, or take the back. His kickboxing and boxing has really come together and he's grown to be very confident on the feet. He carries his hands high, feints high and low, throws very fast kicks to the head, body and legs from distance, and has sharp boxing combos in the pocket. But there is questions around his striking defense. His defensive grappling, particularly scrambling and ability to reverse, is one of his best traits. Like, he's so athletic, flexible, and has a lot of explosive power in his hips and legs that I think he can have the ability to escape positions from Islam, especially early. Like Charles, he had full mount on him in the first round after nearly locking in that tight guillotine, though it was helped by his shorts falling off. But Arman was able to reverse and finish that round on top. And Arman's fight with Gamrod, like that had some crazy good scrambles and grappling exchanges. And he just showed he had the cardio to go a hard 25 minutes and that. But he is against like the pound for pound one of the best fighters like today. Like Islam has grappling prowess which matches that of Khabib's, but has developed a dangerous striking game that has seen him actually like outstrike seasoned boxer in Dustin Poirier, land a head kick finish of Volkanovski, and drop Oliveira with a hook leading to a submission finish. Like, Islam not only is incredibly strong in the grappling department and nasty on the feet, but he has shown high level IQ. Like, he's opportunistic with his takedowns, back takes, and submission attempts, and he works systematically as he moves through the ground, advancing positions. And one thing about Islam is he is very calm. Like, you were talking earlier about how he looked shook in a few moments against Volkanovski and Poirier. I think that's just always like how his face looks. Like, he always just looks like he's confused as well. But yeah, like, I think his ability to stay calm when opponents have moments of success and they're building momentum and the crowd is cheering on, like, that is one of his best traits. Like the best example of this is against Volkanovski and Poirier, where they both were able to defend Islam's takedowns or get into like favorable positions, which was always followed by the roar of the crowd, and Volkanovski and Poirier would like rally forward and like even taunt him. And in these moments, like Islam just stayed within himself, got back to kicking range, allowed for that moment to pass, and just get back to the game plan. Like Islam had
I was in Perth at that fight, and that is the loudest crowd I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
So I like have to agree with you. Like the way if the fact that he stayed in there when like there was probably 30,000 Aussies just going ballistic, it was pretty impressive, man.
Yeah, like I was at Gamia hotel, like packed out, and then like even like the crowd there was just like yelling, like you could barely like hear it.
Yeah,
I could barely hear myself talking, so I could only imagine what like a whole arena would have sounded like. And he just stayed calm. He just allowed that moment to pass, and then just got back to it. Yeah, so Islam has really shown to be one of the most well-rounded fighters on the entire roster, and on top of that, has one of the best IQs in the game. But I think Arman in this matchup will be his toughest defense. But on the other side of that, I think this will be Arman's toughest fight in his entire career. Both fighters have really gotten better and more complete since their first meeting, and circumstances around that first meeting allowed for a bit of a close contest at the time. Like Arman came in ready on short notice with full confidence in his already high level skills, but also Islam was probably not prepared for the level of fighter that was going to come in on short notice, and he was most likely surprised there. This fight, I feel, will be even closer because they both have cemented themselves as the highest level of grappling you could get in the lightweight division. Like both have improved their kickboxing as well to a high level and have had a significant amount of time preparing for each other. It'll be a game of close margins. So I expect both to take each other down, plenty of scrambles and reversals and extended amounts of control time for both. But I do favor Islam's offensive grappling over Arman's, especially through his 5-round championship experience and IQ. Like I feel that while Arman can get some takedowns, Islam could probably get a little more. While Arman can get some control time, Islam can probably rack some more. And I also think a surprising amount of this fight will play out on the feet, like just because of how much they both respect each other's grappling and being aware of the 5-round pace. I have to also lean Islam getting the better of the striking slightly. I just think he has a more rounded out striking game and process to Arman. So all up, I feel like they're so similar, but it could end like I messaged this to you the other day. It could end up just being like a big brother versus little brother kind of fight where Islam is just beating him by tiny margins, no matter how much Arman has improved. So I am very excited for this fight. I think Islam will win this by a decision, and I did make a play. So my parlay with Umar and Marab going to the distance is parlayed with this fight over 4.5 rounds. But honestly, like if you're making like a play in this fight, Arman at plus 310 is absolute value considering like this will be a game of close margins. So
yeah.
And even if Arman loses, this will probably be the best example of a value loser that you could get.
100%. That's what we were messaging about, and I feel like it feels like you have to play him, but it also feels like he's just going to lose by like you said, the tiniest margin, which might be enough to sort of just keep me away. But I don't know. They're forcing my hand. Like I feel like I have to play him.
Yeah, you could play it on Neds on that split decision payout.
Yeah, it's not a bad call. It's actually a pretty good call. I like Makhachev by TKO is like I think you'll get over plus 600. I think you'll get about plus 700 on that. I feel like he's got a big chance to knock out Arman. I got questions on Arman's chin pretty big time. And if this, like you said, operates at striking range, I think Islam is probably live to hurt him at any point. That's a pretty big number too.
Yeah.
Might have a one. What's that?
Yeah, that is a good number.
Yeah, it feels like a really good number, especially given they're going to be Southpaw versus Orthodox, and that back leg of Islam's going to be massive. Yeah, you know what I was thinking as well when I was taping this fight? All I could think was like, can you imagine the fucking training room in Tiger Muay Thai back in the day. Like Armin won when they used to have the challenge.
Oh, he won that thing, didn't he?
Yeah, he won that back in like 2018 or 17 or something like that. He was there. Peter Yan was there. Dreykus was there back in the day. Volk was there back in the day. Mike Davis won it as well.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that training room, dude? There's some fucking high-level guys in there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's what I was... Because when he took that fight against Islam short notice, I'm pretty sure that's when he was like at Tiger Muay Thai full-time. And it's made me think of it. I was like, dude, that's a sick training room.
Yeah.
God, this is a good card though, man. Like, I'm so excited.
Cannot wait. And it's going to be good that we're watching it together, man.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We're finally back together. No, I'm really keen for this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to have like a huge amount of action on it. I'm just pretty keen just to watch as a fan and enjoy it, and obviously have the odd play or two, but we'll see how we go. We'll end up with a pretty small slate, I reckon.
Yeah.
Feels like pay-per-views have been hard to get juice out of. They've been like pretty chalk heavy for a while.
It is, yeah. Like even like through the week, like I've already made all my bets, and it was just hard. Like found it more harder than other pay-per-views for finding spots.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's go through the card. Finally, we'll pick our side, and I guess if you have like a bet that you want to share or like a lean that you're thinking, feel free. You don't have to do that on every fight, but yeah, if you've got anything. So first fight, Tagir Ulanbekov, Clayton Carpenter.
Yep, Tagir in this fight. I think Clayton will put up a very valiant effort.
Yeah, I like the look of Clayton at the price. I think he's probably a good shot. I'm kind of tossing up the unders as well, but yeah, we'll see where we land on that one. Then we've got Ricky Tercios, Bernardo Sapai.
Yep, I think Sapai wins this.
Yeah, me too, but I wouldn't play him at minus 450, whatever it is. Rinya Muin-Gafarov.
Rinya? Yeah,
I like Rinya too, and I like Violence as well. I think getting a very good number there. Carol Hosa, Eileen Perez.
Perez. Like, she has to be the side.
Yeah, I agree. I think the number has to be her. We haven't taped that one yet. No, I'm not going to say anything on that one. Grant Dawson, Diego Ferreira.
Diego Ferreira to win on his birthday.
Yeah, birthday magic I think is going to happen there.
Yep.
I'm with you. Jalton versus Sergey.
Jalton, I think definitely in the distance, but...
Yeah, I like Jalton as well. I think he should win. Peyton Talbot, Raoni Barcelos.
Peyton Talbot.
Yeah, I think Peyton Talbot should finish. Kevin Holland, RDR.
RDR.
Yeah, I got no idea.
Yeah.
Pass. I think either.
Yeah, I'll pass this one too, please.
Yeah, pass. Benil and Moicano.
Tough one. I'm gonna lean Moicano, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Benil wins. That's why I have no action on this. So
yeah, I pass. I think it's dog or pass, and I prefer to pass at the number. If I got plus 180 on Benil, I probably would have played it. Yuri
I'm
versus
going with
Hill.
Yuri. I already played Yuri for 2 units, but I think he's widening going to an underdog. Well, just slightly.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
But I got him at straight up picking.
If I can get plus one, what would I be happy with on Yuri? Probably plus 130. If it widened that much, then I'd probably get involved on him. But I think it's going to be a pass. I think it'd be a really good fight. Marab versus Umar.
I got Umar.
Yeah, I think Umar will win as well. And Islam versus Arman.
I think Islam wins the fight, but Arman has to be the betting side.
Yeah, I think Arman's probably the best value bet of the whole night. Should be good though. Looking at Islam by Tico as well, I think that's...
Man, I cannot wait for that fight.
Yeah, this is going to be a sick fight. I'm super keen, especially when you hear the banger of Islam.
Yeah.
Dude, it is such a banger.
Yeah, like that. It's like electronic music, eh?
Yeah, it's like the war drums, but it's like techno. It's fucking sick.
And I'm just keen for all the fight week stuff. Like all the press conferences. Like,
yeah, that's tomorrow, the day after. It might be Friday.
Yeah,
it might be Friday.
But yeah,
yeah,
he's a funny bloke.
Yeah, he's funny. I think the press conference would be good. There'll be a bit of hatred in the co-main, and then I think the whole main card's on the press conference, so it'd be good to hear from everyone and hopefully it's an interesting one, not just like all these softball questions. Oh, you see your Saturday night.
I can't wait for Boicano as well. Like,
yeah, you're going to be good on the mic. Well, he hasn't got much to like. Benil's not going to give him anything to work with. All right. Well, we'll end it there anyway. Yeah, it's been another episode of the WagerWise podcast. I think it's been the most views we've ever had live on it since we started. So it's good to see. As always, if you want the full betting card from me, it's you can head to Twitter at Provide Picks, and there's a link there. Otherwise, you can head to whop.com/provide picks and join the premium. Yeah, it's been pretty solid lately, I'd say. I say it every week, but NBA, NFL, not NFL, NBA, football, MMA, esports, NRL coming back soon. Yeah, it's been a pretty good stint, and yeah, really looking forward to have like a couple of those main sports back, like NRL and AFL. It's not too far away. And yeah, if you got Ryan's, he's always bets away for free with breakdowns and best flips and all that stuff. Head to his his Twitter at Desperate Times with a Z. And it's all there, and you can get in touch with us on there, and yeah, hopefully give us a follow and whatnot, and we'll keep growing the podcast. But yeah, you got anything to say before we sign off?
No, this is going to be a amazing card, and it'll speak for itself. Like, I reckon this might be the best main event of the year.
Yeah, I think the whole main card is going to deliver. It's going to be a sick card, so I'm super keen. And super keen to be watching with my friend in person for the first time in too long, man. It's going to be good to see you.
It's been a long time, mate. I'm keen to get down there.
Yeah, it's going to be good to see you in person, man. All right, well, thanks everyone who's tuning in or has tuned in or whatnot. We'll see you in the next episode. I think there's a week off after this week.
Yeah, a week or two off, maybe.
I think there's a week off, and I think it's the PFL Paul Hughes versus the Dagestani versus Ireland match up there. Yeah. So that's what we got on the week off. So maybe we'll do like a quick podcast on that one. It's obviously not going to be as in-depth as the UFC ones, but maybe we could do like a 40-minute one and talk through anything we have there. We'll let you know on the socials anyway. But, yeah, thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Have fun at UFC 311. Let's win some money, and we'll see you next week or the week after. We'll see.
So it's